Chapter 10-15. The cultivation department store's basement was a gourmet street. Mother Wang chose a chain restaurant that looked clean and tidy and ordered a table full of dishes. It wasn't that Mother Wang wanted to show off her wealth or anything, but that she was really hungry. Mother Wang had already experienced this when she was pregnant with Wang Ling. As long as Mother Wang was pregnant, she could eat a lot. Furthermore, she especially wanted to eat spicy food. Don't stand on ceremony. Mother Wang smiled at Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi, then started to eat. Wang Ling ordered a glass of lemonade and watched on the side as Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi dug into their food like hungry wolves. Because of the restrictions on their magic power, it was easier for them to feel hungry, which was why they had been starving ever since they had returned from the Palace of Mirrors the day before yesterday. Through Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi, Wang Ling realized that Gu Xuanji was truly impartial and incorruptible. As the keeper of cosmic order, he could be so ruthless to his fellow countrymen. This state of affairs for 2 years was simply a form of punishment. Even mortals weren't this miserable when cultivating to immortality. But after the summer break, Wang Ling remembered that number 60 High's initial expansion should have already been completed. The first wave of school construction investment from Huaguo Water Curtain Group had already been approved, and a student dormitory should be built behind number 60 High's sports field. This was the standard for a key city school. Since number 60 High wanted to upgrade to a key city school, it had to have dormitories. That was to say, after the summer break, Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi's lives would be a little more relaxed, and they wouldn't have to worry about renting a house. It was Gu Xuanji who had arranged for their identities on Earth, and he had gotten them to study at number 60 High. Having a cheap place to shelter them from the wind and rain was better than renting a house in the vast city. It was really hard to believe that 2 rich kids from the domain of the gods would live like this after coming to Earth. Was this the cultivation world's metamorphosis? Wang Ling was instantly a little happy. Have you run into any difficulties? Like most middle-aged women, Mother Wang liked to chat with others during meals. The most important thing was that Wang Ling realized that when she chatted with others, she always got to the point. This had a lot to do with Mother Wang's life experience and writing experience. Before Mother Wang stopped writing, she had read too many stories. Hearing Mother Wang's words, Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi both looked melancholy. He could only say that he was indeed worthy of being the great senior in the villa. As expected, Ling Zhenren's birth mother was amazing. Although Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi's cultivation was high, they were still greenhorns compared to Mother Wang in terms of experience. It was useless to have profound cultivation, they still had too little time to struggle in society. Sometimes when they cultivated in seclusion, hundreds of years would be used up, they couldn't even keep up with the information. Children of wealthy families in the realm of the gods like them had all grown up surrounded by their families. They advocated money in social interactions, and once their source of wealth was cut off, they would be muggles. Therefore, Gu Xuanji's side had put in a lot of effort to send them to Earth to gain experience. Gu Xuanji's clan was known as an empire in the domain of the gods, but Gu Xuanji had an additional identity as a keeper of order compared to Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi. He maintained order everywhere in the universe, so his personality was much more mature than Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi's. We're looking for a job, but no one wants us. Wang Zhan let out a pained cry. Foundation establishment cultivators could consider using flying swords to deliver takeout or express delivery. But the problem was that the Earth ID cards that Gu Xuanji had arranged for them were still in high school. An underage ID card. Just like Wang Ling, they were only 16 years old. No unit dared to hire them, and they didn't know where to look for work. It would have been fine if they weren't in high school. But the problem was that they were already registered high school students in the general administration of 100 schools. Even a regular small enterprise wouldn't hire them as long as they searched their information online. What about Little Lei? Mother Wang thought of grenade-throwing senior immortal. Little Lei should be able to help you. But he doesn't pay us. We want to improve our lives. As a little princess, Lu Qingyi felt wronged from the bottom of her heart. She never thought that she and Wang Zhan would end up in this situation one day. Not only was this person her nominal fiancé in the domain of the gods, he was also the person she hated the most. But it just so happened that she and this nuisance had come to the world below because of a misunderstanding. In the end, this guy Gu Xuanji had found them and executed them on the spot. There were still 2 years before they could return to the domain of the gods. Logically speaking, 2 years shouldn't be too long for cultivators who habitually cultivated in seclusion, But Lu Qingyi and Wang Zhan now felt like one day was like a year. Their seclusion room in the world above had Wi-Fi, air conditioning, and they didn't have to worry about food or clothing. But now, even housing in the world below was a problem. Wang Ling felt that if they had to blame someone, it was definitely Wang Zhan and Wang Zhan themselves. For second-generation rich kids like them who were used to living comfortably in the domain of the gods, it was probably impossible for them to lower their pride and live under someone else's roof. Grenade Throwing was a warm-hearted person, and would definitely be willing to help Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi. But if Wang Zhan didn't accept it, then there was nothing he could do. Mother Wang turned to look at Wang Ling. Ling Ling, they're both your classmates. How about you think of something? Lu Qingyi and Wang Zhan were instantly interested. Wang Zhen, I can be a lackey. Lu Qingyi, I can be a hired thug. I can even warm the bed. Mother Wang, Miss, calm down, Wang Ling. Although neither of them was willing to live under someone else's roof, if the other party was Wang Ling, they would be utterly convinced. It was a blessing to be able to work for a big shot. Maybe if he rewarded them with an enchanted crispy noodle snack packet, their careers would soar. In fact, Wang Ling really did think of a profession. There was no age limit or realm requirement for this profession. It didn't matter even if they were students. Furthermore, given Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi's talent, it wouldn't be a problem for them to be competent in this profession. Thus, that night, Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi received new arrangements. Dog 2 took Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi downstairs to the family apartment building. Wei Ji was already waiting at the entrance. He was bare-chested and had a saltwater popsicle in his mouth. He was wearing baggy underpants as he stood downstairs with the pushing large butterfly perched on his shoulder. Seeing that Loopy Toad had arrived, Wei Ji immediately waved excitedly. Brother Dog. I've already told you the situation over the phone. I'll leave these two to you, Dog 2 said. Its job was done. Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi greeted Wei Ji. Wei Ji said with a smile, from now on, you'll work with me to take care of spirit beasts. You'll start as a junior pet trainer. Each of you will earn 6,000 yuan during the probation period, which is 3,000 yuan after deducting the rent. After that, your salary will also rise. A senior pet trainer can earn tens or even hundreds of thousands of yuan a month. If you work hard, you'll be able to support yourself. Then please advise us. Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi gladly accepted. Relying on their own abilities to make a living wasn't like living under someone else's roof. Furthermore, Wang Ling had arranged this job for them, so they didn't feel so bad about it. Chapter 10:16. Wei Ji's job wasn't very complicated, and Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi quickly got it done. It was just something like a pet shop. Previously, Wei Ji had thought of hiring some assistants to help him, but the experience of the assistants he found from the outside was uneven, and they wouldn't work for too long. Taming spirit beasts was a technical job, and as a pet trainer, Wei Ji naturally had his own unique techniques. In this day and age, there would be some short-distance workers who would come to help others. After secretly learning the methods, they would resign and disappear to start their own business. Wei Ji didn't want this group of people to take advantage of him. In the end, Wang Ling introduced two people, which delighted Wei Ji. Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi were much more experienced than Wei Ji had imagined. They didn't need any special pointers from Wei Ji at all, and he could actually learn some new things from them. You've raised spirit beasts before? Wei Ji looked at Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi, this pair of enemies, and was immediately very curious about their identities. Sort of, but I've never raised such a small one. Wang Zhen's face was as calm as an ancient well. Then what did you raise before? Wei Ji asked. Lu Qingyi replied, his family runs a fishery. Fishery? Wei Ji had an idea. What kind of large spirit beasts could be raised in the fishery? It was nothing more than spirit whales. The Pet Trainers Guild had a water king whale, but because of its huge size, it was kept in captivity in the West Sea, where the Pet Trainers Guild had a breeding base. Calm. Raising whales is indeed not easy. I didn't expect you to have experience raising whales by yourself. Wei Ji immediately felt relieved. Ordinary people couldn't raise a cetacean spirit beast. If they didn't raise it well, it would die. Wang Zhen sighed. When all was said and done, they were pet trainers from the world below. They simply didn't know anything about their origins, however, both Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi believed that there had to be a reason why Wang Ling had arranged for them to work here. In this day and age, you could become a true venerated just by eating broccoli. Listening to Ling Zhenren's arrangement was the right thing to do. Although Wei Ji was from the lower realm, as long as they worked hard, they might be able to comprehend something new from Wei Ji. Thus, Wang Zhen didn't plan to hide anything from Wei Ji at all. He directly shook his head and said, "I'm not raising whales." Wei Ji felt that this question was beyond the syllabus. His face was full of doubt. "Not a whale?" "Wang Zhen. I raise Kuan." "Wei Ji." On the same night that Wei Ji and Lu Qingyi were arranged to stay, the cultivation department store's transport vehicle drove over from the city center to the entrance of the Wang family's small villa, transporting a large batch of goods that Mother Wang had bought that day. "Madam, this is the detailed list of your goods. Please sign after checking." The delivery man stood at the door with a smile. For the cultivation department store, this was a rare big customer. The night delivery fee would be based on the total value of the goods. Although the commission was only a small percentage, if there was a huge order, it was a huge profit for the delivery person. The delivery order was randomly assigned by the system, and the delivery man felt extremely lucky. Mother Wang took stock of the goods, and after confirming that she hadn't missed anything, she tactfully gave the delivery a 5-star rating. The little brother bowed very politely. Cultivation department store worker number 193, delivery person. "Qin Zong, thank you for your rating. I look forward to seeing you again, madam." Somehow, Wang Ling felt that this name sounded a little familiar. This time, Mother Wang had indeed bought a lot of things. All the cooking condiments at home had already been replaced with those for pregnant women. In addition, she had also bought a lot of baby clothes. Because she didn't know if the baby in her belly was a little brother or sister, she had chosen neutral styles, and it wouldn't be too strange for a boy or a girl to wear them. After putting the goods in a storage bag from the car, she took them out one by one in the living room and began to admire the spoils of her afternoon shopping. Startled by the noise downstairs, Father Wang wasn't even in the mood to type. When he went downstairs to take a look, he saw all kinds of things on the ground, which looked like stalls. His 1 month's worth of royalties was gone just like that. There's no need to buy so many things. Hands on his waist, Father Wang looked at the ground. Some of them might be impulsive purchases. I remember that the cultivation department store supports returns within 3 days of receipt. What return? These are all necessary things. Mother Wang rolled her eyes at Father Wang. That was our first time having a child, and we didn't have any experience. After I gave birth to Ling Ling, I've been reflecting on it. Why can't Ling Ling be like other ordinary children when he's born, but just have to be so gifted? Now I understand. Father Wang and Wang Ling. Mother Wang. It must be because we didn't do enough prenatal education at the time. Father Wang and Wang Ling. Mother Wang. Sometimes, the all-round development of moral, intellectual, physical, aesthetic, and labor needs to be nurtured in the womb. When I was pregnant with Ling Ling, I always felt that we lacked communication, which led to Ling Ling's bad temper after he was born. If we could have helped him correct this earlier in the womb, even if it was just psychological counseling, who knows, Ling Ling might have been born a normal child. Wang Ling. It had to be said that Mother Wang had really done a lot of preparation for the birth of her second child this time. This could already be seen from the prenatal education segment. Everything Mother Wang had done was to avoid giving birth to another ticking time bomb. Look at this. This is a magic treasure I specially bought from the baby section of the cultivation department store. Mother Wang picked up a handset from among the items on the ground. The price tag hadn't been removed yet, but the string of zeros made Father Wang suck in a cold breath. This handset alone already cost him a week's worth of royalties. What is this? A prenatal education handset. Mother Wang looked at the instruction manual, then connected one end of the handset to her belly. She then put on the headset on the other end and demonstrated. As long as you do this, you can hear the baby's voice in your belly. Honey, you've only been pregnant for a few days. This is just an embryo. What's wrong with an embryo? Embryos also have bioelectric waves. The most amazing thing about this handset is that it can simultaneously translate bioelectric waves. What we want to say will also be transformed into bioelectric waves by the headset and transmitted from the handset to the belly. This way, we can communicate. Mother Wang laughed. Why don't we give it a name first? Ling Ling, what do you think?
Give it a name. Wang Ling cupped his chin and thought hard.
Nuan.
Wang Nuan.
Wang Ling then opened his mouth. Chapter 10:17. Wang Ling had never thought that one day he would actually name his own younger brother/sister. In fact, he had never thought that father and mother Wang would actually have a second child. Wang Ling couldn't completely see his future clearly. His world line was fuzzy, and he could only use his eyelids to warn him and some foresight abilities to avoid certain disasters. In fact, Wang Ling was still looking forward to having a real sibling. Whether it was a younger brother or sister in mother Wang's belly, Wang Ling felt that as an older brother, he absolutely couldn't learn from Wang Ming and always think of ways to bully his younger brother and sister. They would probably get along very well. Would the little guy in his belly be a boy or a girl? Would he like to eat crispy noodle snacks like him? Or would he be born with extraordinary gifts? Wang Ling was looking forward to all of this. As for why he had chosen the name Wang Nuan, Wang Ling felt that this was a reflection on his own character. Once a person's character was set in stone, it was very hard to change. He didn't like to talk, but that didn't mean he was autistic. In the past, he had refused noise and crowds. Now, after studying at number 60 high for half a year, he had gradually become accustomed to the playful sounds around him. In the past, he had been unwilling to meddle in other people's business, but now he was willing to intervene in maintaining world peace. Wang Ling realized that while the environment couldn't directly change a person's character, it could change a person's state of mind. He had never been so fortunate to have this group of friends by his side. His classmates at number 60 high and his fellows at the Office of Strategic Deception had all contributed a lot to changing his state of mind. Why was he called Wang Nuan? This was Wang Ling's reflection on his own character, as well as his expectations for this unborn little guy. He hoped that it would be a cheerful child who could bring sunshine and warmth to people. At the very least, it wouldn't be like him, who kept everything bottled up inside.
That's a good name.
Father Wang agreed. Then, dear, what present did you prepare to celebrate the second child? Mother Wang smiled at Father Wang as she rubbed her belly.
Of course.
As she said this, Father Wang took out a big treasure strung with a round hard substance from the storage space in his trouser pocket, and Mother Wang's expression instantly brightened. The smooth and mellow texture was full of nobility, and the moment it appeared, it made people fall into a trance. Mother Wang stared at this big treasure with a completely stunned expression, and her small mouth slightly opened to reveal her surprise without the slightest bit of concealment.
This
is my custom-made jade necklace. He had been blessed by a master. Do you know old Chen? Super Chen's dad.
Yeah.
When Super Chen was a child, he had a fever that wouldn't subside, so he found a master to treat him, and in the end, he was completely cured. The one who blessed this jade necklace was the same master. I believe this little fellow will definitely like it. As Father Wang said this, he picked up the voice transmitter that Mother Wang had bought and shook the jade pendant in his hand as he smiled. Are you a girl or GG? Jade necklace, do you like it? As soon as he finished speaking, the furniture in the Wang family's small villa began to shake. Then Wang Ling saw a shock wave from Mother Wang's stomach, which shattered the jade necklace. When the wind blew, it was all gone. Father Wang, Mother Wang and Wang Ling. The three of them vaguely felt that they had seen this scene somewhere before. What Wang Ling hadn't expected was that news of Mother Wang's second pregnancy would spread so quickly. On September 15th, the 33rd morning after the summer break officially began, Wang Ling received a message from Audiobook. Audiobook didn't use voice transmission, but asked very cautiously, Shifu, I heard that you're going to have a younger brother or sister. Wang Ling was blank at this news. At best, only the people in the sea village knew about Mother Wang's second pregnancy. Even if Wang Zhan and Lu Qingyi had found out yesterday, they probably hadn't told anyone else. For one thing, they were busy with work and didn't have the leisure to poke their noses into other people's business. For another, neither of them could be considered blabbermouths. Thus Wang Ling sent 3 question marks. As a disciple, Audiobook directly understood the essence of the question marks. Based on his understanding of Wang Ling, if this was fake, Wang Ling would definitely answer with a no, as sparingly as gold. Now that he had sent 3 question marks, it was very clear that he was asking, how did you know? To be honest, it was really a coincidence that Audiobook knew about this. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had planned to reward the staff of the Office of Strategic Deception by buying 2 boxes of fruit for each of them because they had helped solve the Palace of Mirrors problem a while back. The Sea Village's oranges were famous. Wuxia was in charge of ordering them. In the end, when he drove to the village, he saw the villagers talking enthusiastically about Mother Wang's pregnancy. Old Man Wang had become the center of attention as he was surrounded by a group of villagers who chattered non-stop. Then, Wuxia, who was buying the fruit, found out about this. At that time, Wuxia couldn't have been more shocked. For him, his Shifu Wang Ling was already powerful enough. He really couldn't imagine what kind of god Mother Wang's second child would be. If the siblings were to fight in the future, wouldn't it be like the twilight of the gods? On this side, Wang Ling was also silent after listening to Wuxia's explanation. Mother Wang was actually quite low-key about her second pregnancy. There were no neighbors near the Wang family's small villa, and no one would care about her second pregnancy. The only place that knew about Mother Wang's second pregnancy, and the news had spread like wildfire, was the Sea Village. In the end, Wang Ling hadn't expected Wuxia to accidentally hear about it in this way. Given Mother Wang's wishes, Wang Ling had ordered Wuxia not to make it public. As a disciple, Wuxia naturally obeyed. It was just that Wang Ling had never expected the news of Mother Wang's second pregnancy to eventually reach the ears of everyone in the Office of Strategic Deception. That afternoon, Grenade-throwing senior immortal held an emergency meeting to celebrate the birth of the second child, and everyone was busy giving presents. Wuxia cried. This really had nothing to do with him, and his desire to survive compelled him to hurriedly text Wang Ling to explain the whole story. Shifu, I really can't be blamed for this. After sending the message, Wuxia immediately sent several pictures. Wang Ling saw that they were packaging for Sea Village oranges. Wang Ling remembered what had been written on the packaging before. Fresh oranges are more delicious. Now it read, "Congratulations, Uncle Wang, for having a second grandchild." Chapter 10:18. Although Wang Nuan was still an embryo that hadn't fully developed yet, judging from the shock wave from her belly, Wang Ling already knew that this child was destined to be extraordinary. Father and Mother Wang were a little frightened by this discovery. This scene was a little too similar to when Wang Ling had snapped that magic sword in half. A couple at the body refinement stage had given birth to 2 fiends in succession. Father and Mother Wang felt that if this matter was exposed, it wouldn't be their 2 children who would be dragged into science, but themselves. Because of the miraculous packaging operation of the Sea Village, basically everyone who knew Mother Wang's second child knew about it. The Wang family's small villa hadn't stopped receiving express deliveries in the last 2 days. The express deliveries were all for Mother Wang and Wang Nuan. Mother Wang had always been popular. Although it wasn't convenient for her to meet up with her friends in the suburbs, distance couldn't stop a true friend's sincere blessings. As long as they were true friends, they would send you their blessings even if they were thousands of miles away. Fair-weather friends couldn't compare. I didn't expect everyone to be so polite. Mother Wang stared at the express deliveries, feeling both warm and depressed. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have gone to the cultivation department store to buy things. Her friends were all very thoughtful, and she didn't know if they had discussed it beforehand, but none of their gifts were the same. There were all kinds of magic treasures for prenatal education, baby products, supplements for pregnant women. The most exaggerated thing was that someone had directly given her a membership card for a cram school. The card had money in it, and on it was written a wise saying that Wang Ling had heard in all kinds of educational advertisements since he was a child. Don't let your child lose at the starting line. This saying might make sense, but for the children of the Wang family, it might just be bullshit. After all, they were born at the finishing line. At noon on September 16th, Wang Ling received a long-awaited group chat from number 60 High's Grade 1, Class 3 squad. Wang Ling had always felt that basically no one would visit a class group unless they had something to do. After graduation, if they really had something to do, they would choose to talk to a certain classmate in private, and most of the others would just show off in the group. Nowadays, there was really too much news of students turning into successful people after graduation and showing off in the group, thus incurring dissatisfaction. Most of the time, the innocence of the class group was still reflected in school. Like this moment. Super Chen first sent a few beautiful pictures of the scenery. It could be seen that his disappearance a while ago had something to do with traveling. There was a lot of time during the summer vacation, so it was understandable for him to go out and broaden his horizons. The world of cultivation was just too big. It was far from enough just to go out and play during the high school holidays. However, it was still necessary to go out and have a look. 5% of the content of the college entrance examination was the expansion of extracurricular knowledge. Those college students who wanted to get into a famous school would never give up this 5%. Moreover, these extracurricular knowledge tests never had a fixed format. It was completely up to the teacher who came up with the questions to ask whatever came to mind. If one's knowledge in this area was completely blank, one's mentality would explode upon seeing the test questions. Look! Isn't this scenery beautiful? Super Chen posted a few pictures in succession. The scenery here is also pretty good. Dopigua also posted several photos after Super Chen. Wang Ling was silent and didn't answer. As number 60 high school's most outstanding commissary in charge of studies in grade 1, class 3, he was able to straightaway see through these photos. Tell me, how much homework do you have left to do? Super Chen was so moved that he wanted to cry. Little Peanut, you know me best. It's like this actually, it's not that much. Apart from math, physics and chemistry, I haven't finished anything else. Wang Ling. Little Peanut, then why don't you just say that you haven't finished? Super Chen laughed. Isn't that a little more subtle? Master of Dopey followed up from behind. The world is so big, there's nothing wrong with wanting to see it. In any case, when it comes to homework, as long as we have bros and sisters around, there's always a way. Expanding extracurricular knowledge is also very important. Then why don't you borrow it from Lotus Sun? The corners of Little Peanut's mouth twitched as he sent a disgruntled message in the group. Classmate Lotus Sun. Her problem-solving train of thought is too advanced. She probably hired some kind of tutor at home. If I copied her, Old Pan would be able to tell at a glance. Dopigua directly sent a voice message to the group. Super Chen and I have already discussed it. As long as you and Wang Ling lend us your homework to copy, this problem will be solved. First of all, your problem-solving train of thought doesn't go beyond the syllabus. It's all taught in class. Super Chen and I have deeply experienced this when we copied homework a few times before. Little Peanut and Wang Ling were stunned. This wily old fox had actually learned from copying. Dopigua. It's like this. For me, I'll copy 70 of yours, and the remaining 30 of Wang Ling's. Super Chen and I are the opposite. This way, Old Pan won't be able to tell. Little Peanut laughed. Do you really think Old Pan is stupid? Don't worry, we won't copy everything. There will definitely be a few mistakes on purpose. Of course, if it wasn't for the credits for homework, Super Chen and I probably wouldn't have put so much effort into doing homework. The teachers assign so much homework for the summer. When they collect it at school, it will pile up as high as a mountain. School has just started, and they'll be busy with homework. They won't even have time to prepare for class, so how would they be in the mood to approve summer homework? Dopigua analyzed logically. Actually, the phenomenon he was talking about wasn't limited to high schools. Even in junior high, most teachers dealt with winter and summer homework in one of 3 ways. The first type was statistical. Simply put, the homework was collected first, and the parents of those who hadn't handed it in were counted. Those who hadn't handed it in would be called, and those who had handed it in would be divided into several groups to mark each other. The second type was death with a reprieve. Teachers of this type were more benevolent. They knew that many students procrastinated and often liked to catch up on homework only in the last few days of the summer break. So they deliberately set a later deadline for collecting homework so that the students could catch up on it. It didn't matter if they didn't do well, but finishing homework was a matter of attitude. So generally speaking, teachers of this type didn't care whether or not you finished your winter and summer homework. As long as you handed it in by the deadline, you would be released on the spot. Those who didn't hand it in would be directly sentenced to death. The third type was energy-saving and environmentally friendly. This type was more simple and crude, and mostly used intimidation. In fact, they didn't care at all whether or not the students had finished their holiday homework. Holidays were meant to be relaxing and happy. There was no need to be so competitive. Thus, after collecting the winter and summer homework, teachers of this type would directly use the notes erase spell to leave this batch of winter and summer homework for the next batch of juniors. They could be recycled and never wasted. Tianjin. Chapter 10-19. Nowadays, There were actually quite a few people who could copy homework with confidence, experience, and righteousness. Dopey Gua and Super Chen were examples. Whether it was copying homework or lending it to someone else to copy, both were bad behavior. He never copied other people's work, because there was no need. Of course, Wang Ling wouldn't lend it to someone else if he wasn't familiar enough with them. The main reason why he lent it to Dopey Gua and Super Chen was that he didn't want to hurt their friendship. In addition, these two people really had the ability to learn, and they had never fallen behind in their grades. Copying homework was just to save trouble. If they weren't good at studying, he wouldn't lend them out, that would be harming them. Then let's make an appointment to meet at Ribok tomorrow. Super Chen sent a message in the group, and then sent the coordinates of a coffee shop. This was a chain of cafes located in the bustling area of the city center. At this time, there were still relatively few students in the cafes and those fast food restaurants. After all, the summer vacation was not really coming to an end. In the last few days of the summer vacation, you would have the chance to see McDonald's and KFC filled with students who came to do their homework. Wang Ling felt that this was one of the great wonders of the summer vacation. A group of middle school and high school students riding on spirit swords and using all kinds of magic weapons to openly copy and paste other people's workbooks in the fast food restaurant. Such a magnificent scene was really hard to imagine. September 17th, 20 days before the end of the summer vacation. Wang Ling took Loopy Toad out to the cafe that Super Chen and Dopey Gua had designated. Ever since Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had gotten together, it liked to go to Wei Ji's place whenever it had something to do. Sometimes, Super Chen and the others would come over to ask for a photo of Loopy Toad, but Wang Ling wouldn't be able to take it for them right away. Back then, Loopy Toad's primordial spirit had merged with Teacher Pan's and turned into a dog, which had been directly born in Grade 1, Class 3. It could be said that Loopy Toad was the #1 class pet at the very beginning. More than half of the summer break had passed, and the students who cared about Loopy Toad, like Dopey Gua and Super Chen, still missed this plump and fleshy green-furred dog very much. He didn't choose to directly teleport over. The cafe was in a bustling area, and he might scare people if he appeared directly. It was a rare summer vacation, and he felt that he should slow down his pace of life. So in the end, Wang Ling and Loopy Toad chose to take a spirit bus to the cafe. Loopy Toad's open and above-board appearance on the bus attracted a lot of people's attention. Loopy Toad and Wei Ji had won the last Spirit Soul competition held by a high school, which had been on the news at the time. Thus, a lot of people felt that Loopy Toad looked a little familiar and wondered if it was that champion spirit dog from last time. But because Wang Ling's cold and aloof aura was too strong, for a moment, no one actually dared to speak. And most importantly, many people remembered that the pet trainer of that champion dog was Wei Ji. How come it had changed to such an aloof owner now? A little girl pointed at Loopy Toad. "Mummy, this dog is so green. Just like Dad." The woman hurriedly covered the little girl's mouth and glared at her fiercely. "What nonsense are you talking about?" That's what Uncle Huang from next door said when he came to fight with Mom. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire bus fell into a dead silence. The awkward atmosphere lasted until the woman got out of the car. Wang Ling watched the girl's back through the window as she left. Although it was possible that it was just a child's babbling, this girl would probably get a beating when she got back today. Loopy Toad, on the other hand, was a little unhappy that someone was pointing at it and saying it was green. How many chapters had it been? What was so strange about a green-furred dog? Halfway there, Wang Ling felt his phone vibrate. It was a message from Super Chen in the group chat. "Are you out?" "I'm already on my way," Little Peanut replied. Wang Ling also replied. "Little Peanut, but then again, why did you specifically book a coffee shop in the city center?" "Don't worry, I was just about to say," Super Chen said. "Of course good kids like you wouldn't know about this kind of place. I heard from the seniors from the previous cohort that every summer break in recent years, every school teacher would specially choose fast food restaurants and coffee shops close to their schools to specifically catch students copying homework. Now, the copying army has already formed a network. Do you know why homework and test papers are made of jade paper these days? If you take a picture of the homework made of jade paper with your phone and send it to someone remotely, it'll be especially blurry and you won't be able to distinguish it at all. The camera function can't identify the texture of the jade paper. This anti-copying function was only released in recent years, to prevent students from using remote devices to take pictures and copy homework. Hearing this, Wang Ling and Little Peanut were silent.
To be honest, if it hadn't been for Super Chen, this wily old fox, bringing it up, they wouldn't have known about this at all.
So, if you want to copy homework, you can only do it offline. As for why you can't do it at home, it's very simple. If a parent sees this, they'll definitely tip off the teacher. Now, the parent groups set up by the teachers in charge are like spy networks. It's really scary. And they even ***king supervise each other. Speaking up to this point, Super Chen couldn't help but feel bitter. For example, my dad, when Chen Zi visited a friend's house, he reported a number 59 high school student in passing. That bro's teachers in charge rushed over overnight and cleared out all his homework. In short, when you come over later, just say my membership number, AC12391, and the front desk will bring you to a private room. Private room?
The corners of Little Peanut's mouth twitched.
Yes, this is a membership card that my and I specially applied for to copy homework. It's to prevent the teachers from seeing us. Dopigua echoed in the group. Since last year, when teachers from all schools started catching students copying homework in fast food restaurants on a large scale, those coffee shops have practically developed plans for private rooms at the same time, and they'll give you a free copy at ease service when you apply for a private room. This service also allows you to hire someone to copy your homework, but there's an extra service charge. Not only can you drink all you want while copying homework, you can also send someone to tip off the teacher at the door. And most importantly, there's a mechanism on the tables in the private rooms. Once you activate the mechanism, it will automatically hide all the homework on the table and replace it with a board game. Even if the teachers really do storm into the private rooms, no one will know, Dopigua typed with a crafty smile. Wang Ling was astonished. Was there a need to go so far just to copy homework? And the reality proved that Super Chen and the others' preparations weren't without reason. Because when Wang Ling got off the bus, he saw a familiar and coquettish figure amidst the crowd on the food street where the cafe was located, like a leopard on the hunt, unhurriedly walking forward. Wang Ling was sure that he wasn't mistaken. This person was Teacher Pan. Chapter 10:20. Before the official start of the summer break, Number 60 High School's headmaster Chen Tianxiang had called a pre-holiday teachers' meeting. At the teachers' meeting, Headmaster Chen's expression was very grave. Teachers of Number 60 High School, I have unfortunate news for you. All the teachers' hearts trembled at these words. They had never heard Headmaster Chen speak so solemnly before. For a moment, the teachers whispered to each other, wondering what major event had happened to actually make Headmaster Chen, who had always been known for his steadiness, show such an absent-minded expression. Teachers should be well aware that after years of hard work, our Number 60 High School has the best chance of being promoted to a key city school this year. Headmaster Chen said slowly. Starting from this summer vacation, our infrastructure will be upgraded one after another, and our faculty will also be upgraded. After our school is upgraded to a key university in the city, teachers with more than 10 years of service will also receive subsidies directly from the general administration of 100 schools for key university teachers. After being promoted to a key city high school, as long as you continue to teach at Number 60 High School and have worked for 50 years, you will receive a house in a school district not far from Number 60 High School in Songhai City. If your children pass the interview, their tuition fees will be free. Also, after being promoted to a key city high school, the school will design a route for you to work and send a sword boat to pick you up. In addition, there will be a national team-building activity for all the teachers every year, as well as an international team-building activity. The team-building activity will help improve the cohesiveness of our teaching team, and at the same time, it will allow our teachers to relax and expand their knowledge in all aspects. When Headmaster Chen said this, Director Shi was suddenly a little puzzled. But isn't this all good news? Headmaster Chen nodded. It's good news. Now, I'm going to tell you the bad news. As a candidate high school for us to be promoted to a key city high school, one very important thing is to hand in the Jade Scroll of School History. The Jade Scroll of School History is made of jade paper, which records the earliest history of Number 60 High School. It is also the only important material evidence that can prove Number 60 High School's qualifications. It is engraved with the wordless seals of past headmasters. Headmaster Chen crossed his fingers and said in a low voice, Back then, I took out Number 60 High School History Jade Scroll of School History and put it on my desk. I had planned to sign my wordless seal before handing it over to the higher-ups for a qualification review. But unfortunately, the jade scroll of school history is missing. Missing? How did it disappear? The teachers were in an uproar. Logically speaking, a school's golden scroll of school history wasn't anything valuable. Even if someone wanted to steal it, they wouldn't set their eyes on it. Most importantly, many teachers knew that there were no words on the jade scroll of school history. Even the principal's signature was wordless. This was to maintain the cleanliness and beauty of the scroll. He needed to use the corresponding password magic to make the words appear on the scroll again. So, Principal, the scroll was stolen? This time, the teachers couldn't sit still. It was now time for each Key City High School candidate to submit information for review, and the deadline for the qualification review was the last day of the summer break. If they couldn't find the jade scroll of school history before then, number 59 High School would most likely be promoted to a Key City High School this year. As for number 60 High School, it would miss its best opportunity in 100 years. This matter was not only related to the students' studies, but it was also related to the teachers' welfare. In fact, a lot of teachers had already planned to resign in recent years, but because number 60 High School's promotion was imminent, they chose to stay and continue teaching. For such a huge storm to appear at this critical juncture, it caused the hearts of all the teachers to turn cold. Silence, everyone. Headmaster Chen spoke indifferently. His voice wasn't very loud, but it carried the aura of a headmaster, and for the time being, he managed to stabilize the situation. I know that all of you are very anxious, but given the current situation, we can't be hasty. Now is the time to show the demeanor of our number 60 High School's teachers. The more critical the situation, the calmer we have to be in the face of danger. Only then can we demonstrate the demeanor of a Key City Cultivation High School's teachers. Headmaster Chen stood up and swept his gaze over the teachers. There's actually still some time before we can submit the application for review. Our number 60 High School just happens to have 60 days to salvage everything. Based on the preliminary information I have so far, the possibility that the jade scroll of school history was stolen has already been ruled out. A few months before the summer break, the General Administration of 100 schools held a jade paper recycling event. Director Sher and I sorted out all the old exercise books and scrolls that were made of jade paper and sent them to my office. From the results of the current surveillance investigation, it is likely that the students who came to move the stuff at the time mixed up the jade scroll of school history with the other scrolls. Because the jade scroll of school history is like a wordless heavenly book without any words, it's not strange that it was treated as trash. Actually, our school is also partly responsible for this. Then where can we find the jade scroll of school history? A teacher asked the key question. Headmaster Chen already had an answer to this question. This was also the main reason why he had chosen to hold the teachers' meeting today. Headmaster Chen dropped his forehead into his hand. After the General Administration of 100 schools recycled the jade paper from all the schools, they used magic to purify and clean it up, and have already cut the jade paper into this year's summer break homework, all the teachers. So the good news is that our jade scroll of school history is still in Songhai City, but I'm afraid it has already been divided into several parts and scattered among this year's high school students' holiday homework. As long as we can find all the parts of the jade scroll of school history during the summer break, I'll be able to restore it with magic. Saying this, Headmaster Chen swept his gaze over the teachers around him with a beseeching expression on his face. All the teachers present are the elites of our number 60 high school. All of you are engaged in teaching in various fields, and have made hard contributions to the cultivation of the flowers of the cultivation world. This year is our best chance in 600 years to become a Key City high school. I implore all of you to find the parts of the jade scroll of school history during the summer break at all costs. Please, everyone. After saying that, Headmaster Chen stood at attention and bowed deeply to the teachers of number 60 high school in the audience. And so, a search for number 60 high school's exclusive jade scroll of school history completely unfolded during the summer break. That was because a lot of students would choose to travel during the break. In order to narrow down the search area, the teachers of number 60 high school focused their search on places like coffee shops and fast food restaurants in Songhai City. As long as there were students copying homework, they wouldn't hesitate to arrest them on the spot. Chapter 1021. No one would have thought that the most important jade scroll of school history would actually be reduced to jade paper pulp at such a critical moment and turned into summer vacation homework.
Now that summer vacation homework had been distributed to every high school student in Songhai City, finding the jade scroll of school history that had been split up was like looking for a needle in a haystack. In response to this problem, Headmaster Chen had released a radar app in the teachers' group chat on the day of the search plan, which could pinpoint the approximate location of the jade scroll of school history. But because the scroll had been split up so many times, the sensing range had dropped significantly. It was only when the scroll was within a range of 50 meters that the app would sense it. This time, the role of leading the teachers in the search for the jade scroll of school history had undoubtedly fallen on Old Antique's shoulders. Old Antique had always had a good relationship with the children, and there was almost no generation gap between them. Even some of the jokes he mentioned in class were new, and it could be said that he was the teacher closest to the young people. Headmaster Chen and Director Shi both felt that only Old Antique could shoulder this heavy responsibility. It was very clear that Old Antique hadn't let them down, and that night, he had drawn up a detailed search plan. Now, I've divided the teachers into several groups, and I've sent the forms to them. Teachers, please take a look. This has to do with our future welfare. I hope that everyone will pay attention to it during the summer vacation. Everyone looked at the forms, which were almost all divided into groups of 2 and had a very clear division of labor. Fast food restaurant group, coffee shop group, library group, magic treasure science and technology museum group, spirit sword club group, and the most insane of all, there was even an airport group. That was to say, even if a student made an appointment to go abroad to copy homework, the teachers could stop them on the spot. We don't have enough manpower. Several teachers checked the division of labor on the forms. Even if the teachers of number 60 high were to be sent out together, the range they could cover was just one district at most. Songhai City had a full 22 districts, and there were tens of thousands of fast food restaurants, coffee shops, and so on chain stores, but their sensing range was only 50 meters. How long would it take for them to search? Don't worry, teachers. Please trust in my instructions. Just follow my instructions and do what you're told to do. Old Antique smiled confidently. Of course, he knew that in a situation like this, they had to find outside help. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the teachers of number 60 high to complete this mission. As for who he was going to ask for help from, Audiobook absolutely couldn't know about this. Headmaster Chen had already clearly mentioned this when he had appointed Old Antique as the chief commander. Considering that Audiobook himself had graduated from number 60 high, he might have some subjective feelings toward number 60 high in the city's key high school rankings. So he had to avoid any independent activities related to number 60 high in the last few months. Now that the matter of the jade scroll of school history had been lost, Headmaster Chen was even less likely to let Audiobook know. On one hand, he didn't want to put Audiobook in a difficult position, and on the other hand, there were too many people in the general administration of 100 schools. If the matter of the jade scroll of school history being lost was exposed and the alliance of 10,000 schools heard about it, they wouldn't even qualify as candidates for key city schools. Therefore, they were not only looking for the jade scroll of school history. And he had to do it quietly. It's time for me to show my strength. On the rooftop of number 60 high school's campus, Old Antique gazed at the gradually setting sun, and a thought arose in his mind. A few minutes later, 2 figures flashed in front of Old Antique. They were none other than Old Antique's 2 favorite disciples, Killer Taoist and Bandit Evil. Shifu. They knelt down on one knee and cupped their fists in salute. I've already told you the specifics of the situation. How many people can you gather this time? After Shadow Stream was wiped out last time and the master of Shadow Stream was captured, there were still a lot of killers who managed to escape. My junior brother and I tracked them down day and night, and we put them in their places and trained them again. Now, it's time to put them to the test. Including the brothers that Shu has gathered from the underworld, regardless of their level, there are more than 2,000 people, Killer Taoist replied. Well done. That's enough. Old Antique nodded. The most important thing in this operation is secrecy. If you find the summer homework, just steal it, and it's best if the kids don't find out. If you run into a really difficult situation, you can choose to bide your time and let me know, and I'll immediately send a teacher nearby. Understood. The 2 nodded, then turned into black shadows and disappeared. Being promoted to a key city cultivation high school was number 60 high's biggest opportunity in 100 years, and no accidents could be allowed to happen. The truth was that what Old Antique was concerned about wasn't the teacher's benefits, but that after being promoted to a key city high school, Number 60 High would be able to set up an official campus snack shop. He would be able to sell snacks openly and wouldn't have to sneakily sell them to the kids out of a drawer anymore. Headmaster Chen had already promised him that if he could collect the Jade Scroll of school history during the summer break, he would have the right to operate the snack shop. Spicy strips. When the time came, he would have to stock up on a lot of spicy strips. Elsewhere, after the destruction of the Palace of Mirrors, the Black Shadow Army's plot seemed to have failed, but as Wang Ling had said, this was just the beginning. The secret about Shadow, which Immortal Shi Pai had revealed at the end, was the key to the entire matter. In the northern suburbs of Wuxia Nation, there was a mysterious underground complex. This was an ancient tomb that had yet to be discovered because it was hidden very deeply and because of all kinds of restrictions. After President Bai and the others were resurrected, their stronghold was in this underground tomb that had never seen the light of day. President Bai's gaze was fixed on the flickering black shadow in the mirror. This was the Almighty who had resurrected him and Devil Gut Fungus Lord back then, and was now their mutual boss. "What can I do for you?" The person in the mirror spoke in an extremely young voice, like that of a teenager. "Your Excellency, my son has already sensed the fluctuation of shadow after monitoring it day and night. Although it's very subtle, he can confirm that this is what Your Excellency is looking for, the fluctuation of shadow. Shadow hasn't truly been born yet. Just continue to monitor it. If the fluctuation hasn't reached its peak, there's no need to come to me. Also remember, during this period, don't disturb the family in that villa. Before the time is right, I need them to stay alive." "Yes." President Bai nodded. "Also, there's one more thing I need to report to Your Excellency." "Speak." "We've got a new piece of information. Just now, all the killers on the world ranking list of killers suddenly received orders from the highest killer authority to gather together. I suspect it might have something to do with the fluctuation of shadow. I'm afraid they're also looking for the fluctuation of shadow. Handle this trivial matter as you see fit. Just remember my instructions." "Yes." Chapter 1022. This time, regardless of seniority, there were more than 2,000 killers in the world of killers on a large-scale operation, which made President Bai feel strange. To be able to command 2,000 killers in action, the people behind the scenes had to be the two epic-level figures in the world of killers, Gorgeous Itinerant and Taoist Tao Tai. President Bai immediately thought of this pair of fellow disciples. "Father, do you think these two are in command of this operation?" "But rumor has it that they've already fallen out with each other," Bai Yuquan murmured to himself. After rebuilding their foundation in the underground tomb, they had been secretly recruiting soldiers everywhere. Using Night Chief's old subordinates who had escaped earlier as well as the top experts hidden in the dark network as the foundation, they had set up a new Black Shadow army. Similarly, they had tried to hire some killers, but none of the killers on the ranking list paid any attention to their invitations. This was enough to prove that there was already someone behind these killers. At the very least, it proved that there was someone behind the scenes directing the killers' actions. Ever since a killer organization like Shadowstream had been wiped out, President Bai and Bai Yuquan couldn't think of anyone else who could win over the hearts of the people and unite all the killers in a short period of time. Apart from those two epic-level killers. They had to monitor the fluctuation of shadow, and they weren't the only ones who knew the secret of the fluctuation of shadow. According to President Bai's investigation, Immortal Shi Pai's death back then looked like torture on the surface, but the real reason was probably to cover up the secret of the fluctuation of shadow. Perhaps the cultivator governments of various countries were already secretly monitoring this matter. But how did this group of assassins know? President Bai felt a little uneasy. The task he had received was to ensure that no one conspired against the fluctuation of shadow before it reached its peak. Now that these killers were moving together on a large scale, President Bai really had no choice but to be on guard. "Maybe I'm worrying too much, but since we agreed to Your Excellency's instructions, we can't make any mistakes." Sitting on a bench, President Bai tapped his fingernails on the table. "Send someone over immediately. No matter what they're doing, we can't let them succeed." "Yes, father," said Bai Yuquan. A few minutes later, in the underground tomb, Bai Yuquan came up with a new command plan for the Black Shadow army. Black shadows overlapped in front of them, surging with the aura of many experts. "This time, we have to stop these killers. But remember, we have to be secretive. Do not expose your identity." Therefore, everyone needs to take off the black shadow clothing that symbolizes our organization and change into the same clothes as those assassins to achieve the same effect. Should we move out as a group? Someone asked.
No need.
Bai Yuquan shook his head and pondered. We'll send as many as the other side sends.
Each person stared at one of them. If they don't move, we won't move. All he had to do was stop them. During the operation, be careful not to accidentally injure them. Before the grand plan is implemented, please keep a low profile. If you encounter a situation that you can't handle, you can report to me.
Yes, Leader Bai.
As soon as Bai Yuquan finished speaking,
in front of him, the layers of shadows that were as black as crows dissipated.
Everything had happened so suddenly.
The moment he saw Teacher Pan's back, his mind swiftly and automatically filled in the details of what had happened.
This was the legendary brain enhancement technique.
He didn't mean to pry into Teacher Pan's heart. He just wanted to know whether Teacher Pan's appearance here was a coincidence or a pre-planned operation. After Wang Ling's brain enhancement technique, it was very clear that it was the latter. Furthermore, it wasn't just Teacher Pan. Wang Ling's brain enhancement technique had also deduced Old Antique's plan for this operation. No wonder Wang Ling had noticed that there seemed to be a lot of cultivators hiding nearby when he had walked down this street. They had completely concealed themselves in dark corners where the sun couldn't reach them. This kind of professional habit undoubtedly allowed Wang Ling to figure out their identities. At first, Wang Ling didn't know what on earth these people were doing here, because they didn't have any killing intent on them. In a normal situation, no matter how well an assassin concealed their killing intent, given Wang Ling's cultivation, he would immediately be able to tell if they had any malicious intent. Now that he had filled in the blanks, Wang Ling suddenly understood. This bunch of assassins. It turned out that they were here to King steal homework. Old Antique had used his identity as an epic-level assassin to join forces with his junior brother Taoist Tao Tai to hire a total of 2,000 assassins to be spread out in all 22 districts of Songhai City. Such a large-scale operation was actually just for the sake of stealing homework. Wang Ling took a deep breath. For the first time, he felt a little suffocated. At that moment, Teacher Pan was in front of him. Wang Ling had his hands in his pockets and his head was slightly bowed. He and Teacher Pan were only a few body lengths apart. As long as Teacher Pan turned her back to him, she would immediately be able to see him. In the end, things had become troublesome. Wang Ling walked slowly and didn't act rashly. With the assassins Old Antique had sent lying in ambush nearby, any suspicious move he made would be completely exposed in front of so many pairs of eyes. When he passed by a convenience store, Wang Ling turned around and entered it. He planned to wait for Teacher Pan to move forward a little more before quickly entering the coffee shop. But looking at the current situation, Teacher Pan didn't seem to have any intention of leaving for the time being. Thus, Wang Ling took a peaked cap out of his pocket and put it on his head. Wang Ling hadn't prepared this cap beforehand. It was a type of divine ability called the Great Creation Spell, which worked by materializing spirit energy and then simulating what one wanted to create. In theory, this was a spell that could even create food, but the food created wouldn't have any taste. At that moment, Wang Ling felt like he had turned into a spy. In order to make himself look more natural, he took an original flavor crispy noodle snack from the shelf, paid the bill, and sat down at the fast food table in the convenience store. But he hadn't sat down for long when he suddenly heard Little Peanut's voice. Wang Ling. He wasn't tall to begin with, and his head was wrapped up in a white cloth like a mummy's. He also wore sunglasses over his eyes. If it wasn't for the voice, Wang Ling almost wouldn't have recognized this person as Su Xiao. Ha ha ha, seeing that you didn't recognize me, I'm relieved. Little Peanut chuckled. Wang Ling. This was clearly even more suspicious. I arrived a little earlier than you, but unfortunately, I still couldn't get into that coffee shop. Then, he pointed at the door where Teacher Pan was. Like you, I hid from old Pan. Wang Ling. Chapter 1023. There was no doubt that as a pioneer teacher at number 60 high school, Teacher Pan was indeed a capable and powerful woman. Wang Ling had to admit that when he had first arrived at number 60 high school, he hadn't liked this teacher in charge of his. But after getting along with her for a while, he realized that Teacher Pan also had a side to her that no one knew about. If there was anything that had completely changed Wang Ling's opinion of her, it was what had happened between Old Antique and his junior brother, Taoist Tao Tai, several months ago. Their quarrel had resulted in the Shuego sect incident, which had implicated a lot of innocent students. It was also during that incident that Teacher Pan had proved herself to everyone. She was an outstanding teacher in the cultivation world. There were times when Old Pan was an inflexible person. For example, she attached great importance to her students' grades. Or for example, in this era of free love, she still used her inflexible attitude to reject students' puppy love. However, in this world, who could achieve perfection and turn themselves into a perfect person? It could only be said that as a teacher in charge, Teacher Pan had her own insistence on her teaching style. Even if she knew very well that this insistence might be considered inflexible in the eyes of some students. In the convenience store, Wang Ling looked out the window. He thought that even without the jade scroll of school history incident this time, given Old Pan's personality, she would probably still come out to catch those students copying homework, right? Su Xiao sent Super Chen a location in the group. We're in the convenience store next to the cafe, but we can't get in. Then, he sent a second photo, which had been taken through the convenience store's window. Although it wasn't a clear shot, it still captured half of Old Pan's back. In the cafe, Super Chen and Dopey Gua were stupefied when they saw the photo. Dopey Gua. F***K. Why is Old Pan at the door at this time? It's not the end of the summer break yet, right? Little Peanut. Could it be that they're catching people earlier this year? For a moment, Super Chen felt a little uncomfortable. In the past, the teachers would only start catching people when it was almost the end of the summer break. This year the increase in time was a little too much. Super Chen, I don't think the teachers are so free. Do they have other tasks? But to be on the safe side, let's call it a day for today. Let's meet again another day. There's no other way. This is the only way. Dopey Gua nodded. Wang Ling couldn't help but sigh at how real it was that the two crafty old guys in class were so terrified in front of Old Pan. But given the situation today, he really didn't have any other choice, so he could only leave with Loopy Toad. Wang Ling got up and reflexively looked at his feet, and then his whole body froze. Loopy Toad had actually disappeared. F***K. Wang Ling. Did you bring Loopy Toad? At that moment, Little Peanut was terrified as he looked outside the convenience store. At the entrance of the convenience store, Teacher Pan was kneading Loopy Toad's fat and green body. Poor Loopy Toad was captured for a moment, and it waved its paw in the direction of the convenience store with a lifeless expression on its face. It had just left Wang Ling to relieve itself under the shade of a tree, and hadn't expected to be caught red-handed by Teacher Pan as soon as it returned to the convenience store. For Loopy Toad, this was a terrifying woman. It was mostly thanks to this woman that it had been able to turn into a dog back then. The heavenly Tao is such a reincarnation cycle. He hadn't expected to fall into Teacher Pan's hands again. At the same time, seeing Loopy Toad wave at the convenience store, Su Xiao instantly panicked. F***K. Don't wave at me. Old Pan saw everything. Wang Ling. And so what Wang Ling had been most worried about happened. Under Loopy Toad's direction, Teacher Pan successfully noticed the two figures in the convenience store. She walked in with Loopy Toad in her arms and pinched her gold-rimmed glasses. Why are classmate Su Xiao and classmate Wang Ling here? Despite her question, Teacher Pan didn't seem to think that Su Xiao and Wang Ling had been copying homework together. Su Xiao was the class commissary in charge of studies to begin with. He was a well-behaved kid, and was also the class representative for the Tao Talismans class, so Old Pan had a very good impression of him at school. As for Wang Ling, Teacher Pan felt that although he didn't like to talk, his test scores were always low, and he was always in the middle of the class. It was rare for him to be an honest kid. At the very least, he hadn't caused any major trouble at school. Most importantly, Wang Ling's homework was written beautifully and neatly. Thus, although Teacher Pan didn't like him as much as Su Xiao did, she didn't dislike him that much either. What was more, Wang Ling was the class mascot. A commissary in charge of studies and a mascot suddenly appearing at the door naturally wouldn't arouse Teacher Pan's suspicions. Furthermore, Teacher Pan didn't see any other students nearby, which also eliminated the possibility of them borrowing someone else's homework to copy. Wang Ling. Hearing Teacher Pan's thoughts, Wang Ling broke out in a cold sweat. When all was said and done, she was a pioneer teacher at number 60 high school, and her intuition was too accurate. "Hello, Teacher Pan." Su Xiao hurriedly greeted her. "It's like this,
Classmate Wang Ling is taking Loopy Toad to my place to play.
I see.
Teacher Pan nodded. This was a random excuse that Little Peanut had made up, but it sounded impeccable. The reason was that Su Xiao's place really wasn't far from here. It was entirely possible that Wang Ling had taken Loopy Toad to play with Su Xiao, and Teacher Pan was a little happy to hear this. Thus, she said, if it was anyone else, I think they're most likely here to copy homework, but Su Xiao, you'd never do something so foolish. Wang Ling and Su Xiao. Then, Teacher Pan turned to look at Wang Ling and gave him a rare smile. I couldn't tell, but classmate Wang Ling is very motivated.
Wang Ling.
Teacher Pan, taking Loopy Toad to Su Xiao on such a hot day, it's probably to ask him about his studies, right? Su Xiao hurriedly nodded and reacted very quickly.
Yes.
Wang Ling. Actually, Little Peanut wasn't good at lying, but after hanging out with Super Chen and Dopey Gua, these two wily old foxes, this classmate Little Peanut had completely turned into peanut oil. Teacher Pan. It's a good thing that you're motivated. Your grades have always been in the middle of the class, and I find it very strange that you can't improve no matter how hard you try. I've tested several sets of papers before, and you were able to score in the middle on the difficult ones and in the middle on the easy ones. Wang Ling, do you get stronger when you meet the strong and weaker when you meet the weak? Wang Ling. Loopy Toad. But as long as you have the heart, I believe your grades will definitely improve. Teacher Pan nodded earnestly, then stretched out a hand to stroke Wang Ling's head. It was at this moment that Teacher Pan's wristwatch suddenly vibrated. The jade scroll of school history's fragment had sensed the fluctuation.
It was within 50 meters of them.
Classmate Wang Ling, classmate Su Xiao, I have something urgent to do.
We'll talk later.
I'll be going first. Teacher Pan then directly summoned her spirit sword, stepped on it, and flew out of the convenience store with a whoosh. At that moment, not far from the convenience store, Lotus Sun, who had already disappeared from this book for a long time and might have even been forgotten by the author herself, and Feather Lin were walking out of a shopping mall hand in hand. Chapter 1024. What was the ideal state of being with a best friend? It should be a relationship like Feather Lin and Lotus Sun's, going to the bathroom hand in hand and shopping with bags of all sizes. This was the norm for an ideal best friend. Especially during the holidays. Was there anything happier than going shopping together? Feather Lin and Lotus Sun walked arm in arm. Their trip to the mall today had really been fruitful. This Huagua Cultivation Mall was a large-scale chain mall owned by Huagua Water Curtain Group. Taking Lotus Sun with them to buy things would give them a discount based on their looks. Many of the shop assistants didn't know Lotus Sun's true identity, but when they saw this high school girl take out a diamond card from her storage bag, they were still startled. Huagua Water Curtain Group had distributed less than 100 of these diamond cards across the country, and they enjoyed the premium service of buy first, pay later. That was to say, you could directly take things away and pay later, up to a 50% discount. There were all kinds of payment methods, and the highest was 20 years' worth of installments. It was even better than spending money. Mom doesn't have to worry about me chopping off my hands anymore. It's all thanks to Rong Rong this time. I have a lot of clothes I want to buy.
It's a small matter.
You can slowly pay back the shopping expenses to the card.
No problem.
I won't drag it out for long. I'll matchmake 2 more couples next month, and then I'll get a commission again. Feather Lin's face was full of joy. Actually, Lotus Sun had heard about Feather Lin's business before. To put it bluntly, it was a cross-school matchmaker introducing people to date. Furthermore, Feather Lin's business scope was very wide. She could be found in almost all the high schools in Peiyuan district. Whatever style, type, gender you wanted, you just had to ask this Fujoshi Lin, and the most suitable match would immediately appear. In fact, Lotus Sun had always felt that Feather Lin was very amazing. She wasn't just a simple Fujoshi, but a technical otaku Fujoshi. Feather Lin had specially designed a dating app for this high school campus love matchmaking system. But no one would have thought that this dating app would actually be written by a high school student who was still at the foundation establishment stage. Feather Lin relied on the monthly revenue from this app not only to support her tuition and living expenses, but also to support her family. Xiao Yu was a pitiful girl from a single-parent family. Her parents divorced when she was very young, and she had to take care of her mother and brother. Feather Lin's mother had raised this pair of siblings. After years of toiling,
She had finally fallen ill a few years ago. As for Feather Lin's brother, Lotus Sun remembered that her brother was a disabled person. Because of the unfortunate incident of being thrown from a high altitude when he was very young, he had been hit in the spine by a falling object on the street, and had lost all feeling in his lower body. Because she was too young at the time, recovery surgery was not possible, and because the best treatment time was delayed, the injury could not be reversed. Her brother's lower body had no possibility of recovery. Of course, if it had been Wang Ling who had encountered an object thrown from a high altitude at that time, the object falling from above would have bounced back and killed the person who had thrown it. Anyone who heard of such a family situation would be worried, but Feather Lin did not seem to care. She was a strong girl with a strong heart that even a man could not match. Feather Lin was worried that her mother would collapse from exhaustion again, so now there was an auntie helping to clean Feather Lin's house. Every day, she would push Brother Feather out to get some sun. Hi, I wonder when someone will take a fancy to my brother, Feather Lin said as the two girls walked out of the shopping mall. It wasn't easy to find a match for a disabled person. But as far as Lotus Sun knew, this Brother Feather's grades were excellent. Although he couldn't go to a cultivation school because of his lower body disability, his grades were among the best in ordinary schools, and he was a proper straight-A student. Seriously, Feather, do you want to try my family's pills? Maybe there's a chance that your brother can recover. Previously, when I earned some money, I asked my brother if he wanted to see a doctor again. He didn't agree. He's used to a wheelchair. Feather Lin spread her hands and said, "But it doesn't matter. I believe that as long as I don't give up, I can definitely find a boyfriend for my brother." Lotus Sun, boyfriend, Feather Lin. In any case, he can't feel his lower body anymore. If I don't find him a boyfriend, do I have to find a girl? Lotus Sun now seemed to understand why it was so difficult for this Brother Feather to find a partner. The two girls walked to the side of the road, where Huaguo Water Curtain Group's car was already parked. Not only did they buy things together today, but they also discussed the problem of summer homework. This was definitely not to copy homework. Instead, the two girls were discussing how to write the essay in the summer homework. Like everyone else, they also had to make an evaluation of the other students in the class after half a semester together. And the evaluation of Wang Ling stumped these two heroines at the same time. After discussing it, the two of them hit it off and decided to come out today to discuss it. Just as they were about to get into the car, a familiar figure glided toward them on a stream of light in the distance, so fast that for a moment, Lotus Sun and Feather Lin were stupefied. "Protect the king! Protect the king!" The driver in charge of the car hurriedly shouted. The trunk of the black car popped open, and the space expansion technology commonly used in the cultivation world was used inside. The bodyguards accompanying Lotus Sun were all stuffed into the trunk. When they heard the order to protect them, a dozen or so burly men dressed in black poured out of the trunk and surrounded Lotus Sun and Feather Lin in an instant. At that moment, the killers whom Old Antique had sent saw this scene from the shadows. "What should we do? That person seems to be a teacher from number 60 high. Gorgeous Itinerant has ordered that anyone who snatches the homework will be personally taught the secret of being a killer. This is our only chance. This is our only chance. Charge. In any case, it's fine as long as we get the homework. Don't hurt anyone else by accident." On the other side, in another corner of the street, several young men in plain clothes also noticed this chaotic scene. "What should we do? Those killers seem to be on the move. Captain Bai has ordered that no matter what they're doing, we have to stop them. Even if they're going for a birthday celebration, we can't let them get away with it. This is our only chance." Several members of the Shadow Army who were in charge of stalking the assassins took off their plain clothes and changed into night clothes. Then someone shouted, "Charge!" as they swarmed in Lotus Sun's direction. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, three forces had emerged on the entire street. It was a complete mess. "What's going on?" Lotus Sun covered her small mouth, stunned by the scene in front of her. She saw countless black shadows flying toward them from all directions. Feather Lin realized that Lotus Sun seemed to have a natural ability to attract killers. Chapter 1025. After the incident with the Shadow Stream killers, Lotus Sun's personal safety had always been on high alert. Retrieving the Jade Scroll of school history was certainly very important, But given the sudden change in the current situation, as number 60 High's pioneer teacher and the teacher in charge of grade 1, class 3, Teacher Pan couldn't just sit by and do nothing. The safety of the students was always the top priority. Even so, Teacher Pan was still taken aback by the scale of the number of people. There were actually over 100 killers lurking on this commercial street? Actually, there weren't over 100, because the Black Shadow Army and the killers wore very similar clothes, and Teacher Pan had completely confused the two forces. Coupled with the bodyguards sent by Huaguo Water Curtain Group, there were now 3 forces on this commercial street. In a situation where the enemy was outnumbered, fleeing was always the best strategy. Teacher Pan knew that the killers had definitely come prepared for this assassination. But if they wanted to touch her students, they had to do it over her body. Otherwise, don't even think about it. First published on the new August Chinese network, everyone, please protect my 2 students and evacuate safely. Teacher Pan straightened her spirit sword and stood alone in front of the group of bodyguards, her words directed at them. Although these bodyguards were at the golden core stage, they were professional bodyguards from security companies who in many cases advanced realms quickly. Their foundations weren't stable, and they had pitifully little actual combat experience. In the face of a crisis, they would only form an iron bucket formation around their employer in accordance with the crisis plan provided by the company. What was the scariest thing in a fight? Naturally, it was a trick. No matter how powerful a trick was, there would always be a time when it would be seen through. These people were professional assassins, and they had a deep understanding of breaking arrays and assassinations. What could a mere iron bucket array made of human bodies do to them? Fortunately, it seemed that the killers who had been sent to assassinate Lotus Sun this time were only competing in numbers. In a one-on-one fight, Teacher Pan felt that she still had a good chance of winning. But now that the other side had so many people, she had to change her strategy. Teacher Pan. The 2 girls were worried about her safety. Under the protection of the bodyguards, they slowly retreated along the wall along the street. Teacher Pan held her spirit sword, her elite gold-rimmed glasses reflecting the light. She swept her gaze over the 100-odd killers out of the corner of her eye, and couldn't help the cold sweat running down her cheeks. Fighting on the street was explicitly forbidden, but there was one exception, and that was legitimate defense. Everyone. As long as I'm here, don't even think about doing anything to my students. Right after she said that, Teacher Pan stuck the spirit sword into the ground. Teacher Pan had never shown her fighting ability in front of the students, and the spirit root in her body was very pure. It was an earth spirit root. Cultivators with earth spirit roots utilize the power of nature. If their spirit roots are developed properly, this faction can both attack and defend. Although it didn't have the same destructive power as the fire spirit root, it also couldn't be as impregnable as the gold spirit root. But it won in all aspects. Moreover, the greatest advantage of the earth spirit root was the ability to ignore the terrain. Even in the cultivation world, the cultivators were still stepping on the ground. What should we do? Whether it was the killers or the Black Shadow Army, their original intention was not to kill. One side was there to snatch the homework, and the other side was there to stop the killers. In theory, they were working for 2 different forces, and they were enemies with each other. But Teacher Pan's appearance had thrown the battle into disarray, and both of them were being treated as killers. Sword wall. With Teacher Pan's low cry, the spirit sword stuck in the ground started to tremble. There was a violent rumble on the street, and an earth wall dozens of meters high rose from the ground. Shaped like a treasure sword, the earth wall sprang out of the ground like bamboo shoots in spring. The lips of the killers and the Black Shadow Army twitched when they heard this. Cheap bitch. Why was this teacher of the people scolding people? Behind the earth wall, Teacher Pan was still on high alert. She didn't know how long she could resist this attack, but at the very least she could buy them some time. Someone on the side had already called the police, and the cultivation police were on their way. Once reinforcements arrived, this farce would come to an end. The leader of the killers in charge of this group knew that they didn't have much time left. Regardless of whether they succeeded or failed, they could only go all out. You guys jump over there and intercept them. If you can find a chance, go get the stuff, but if you can't, retreat. The rest of you, follow me to stall this teacher and these guys who have appeared out of nowhere. They had a clear division of labor, and they immediately split into 2 groups. Seeing the situation, the Black Shadow Army also hurriedly split into 2 groups. However, the killers who had stayed behind were unafraid of death and wouldn't let them leave. First published on the new August Chinese network, Brother, why do you have to do this? We have our own masters, and you should be able to sense that we're not here to take anyone's life, said one of the Black Shadow soldiers. The two forces looked at each other in dismay. Neither side was willing to give in to the other. The entire street was in a state of panic. The shops on the street closed their doors and refused to accept any customers. They did not want to get involved in the battle. In the distance, sirens could be heard. It was impossible for this kind of melee to go unnoticed by the police. Brother, the cultivation police have sent people over. It's a little inappropriate for us to confront each other in public like this. One of the killers replied to the Black Shadow Army. That's right, it's too inappropriate. The Black Shadow Army also agreed. They knew the gravity of the situation. Then how about we retreat first? We'll meet again another day. All right, retreat first. Everyone retreat on the count of 3. As the two forces confronted each other, the leaders counted down from 3, and then the two groups disappeared from the street together into the shadows. As for the killers who had been sent to chase after Lotus Sun, they also chose to retreat when they heard the sirens. The auras of the two forces disappeared in an instant, leaving no trace behind. In the end, they're professional killers. Teacher Pan cancelled the earth sword wall she had created, and the sun shone down again, elongating her shadow. Wang Ling and Little Peanut watched this scene from a distance. Super Chen and Hero Gua also came out of the coffee shop. Both of them had always had a very rigid impression of Teacher Pan, but right now, everyone's hearts were surging with deep emotion. Teacher Pan. Lotus Sun and Feather Lin had never expected Teacher Pan to step forward bravely like a heroine at such a moment in the face of over 100 killers. They had never thought that Teacher Pan's figure would actually become so lofty on this day. No need to say more, this is what a teacher ought to do. Teacher Pan put away her spirit sword and pushed up her glasses. I am a teacher. Old Pan. In front of the coffee shop, Super Chen shouted excitedly, Old Pan! You're 2 meters 8 today. The smile on Teacher Pan's face faded. It could only be said that as a pioneer teacher at number 60 high school, Teacher Pan was in the end Teacher Pan. Even in the face of praise, her expression was still calm and composed. She raised her head to look at Super Chen and Dopey Gua at the coffee shop entrance. You're finally out. Super Chen and Dopey Gua. Teacher Pan. Before I left the office, I heard you two in the coffee shop's private room making a ruckus about copying homework. Super Chen and Dopey Gua. Teacher Pan. Give me your homework, I'm going to clean it up. Super Chen and Dopey Gua wanted to cry but had no tears. They never expected that not only would they not be able to copy the homework today, even the part they had written would be completely cleaned up. Tragic. Too tragic. Wang Ling, Little Peanut, Lotus Sun and Feather Lin observed a moment of silence. Chapter 1026. Not only had Super Chen and Dopey Gua's plan failed, their whereabouts had been exposed this time, and they would probably become Old Pan's main targets of surveillance in the days to come. After this incident, Wang Ling felt that rather than saying that Teacher Pan was inflexible, it would be better to say that she was a person of principle. The point of copying homework wasn't about the lack of knowledge, but that it was easy to develop a person's laziness. Once this laziness developed into a cancer of laziness, there would really be no cure. In the second half of grade 2, students in Foundation Establishment High School would start to practice a sea of questions, which was destined to be dull and tedious. If you copied someone else's homework because you were lazy, you would think that you had already learned it, and you wouldn't be able to improve your proficiency at all. Review the old to learn the new. Old Pan was now being so strict so that the children could do the college entrance examination smoothly. She didn't blame the children for not understanding her now. After the college entrance examination, all grudges would be over. So it wasn't as if Wang Ling hadn't gained anything on this trip. This trip had given him a better understanding of what kind of person his teacher-in-charge Old Pan was. Teacher Pan's title of Teaching Pioneer was a joke both inside and outside the school, because Audiobook had been her student back then. After Audiobook became famous after that battle, Teacher Pan's career had also skyrocketed, and she had been elected as a city-level gold medal teacher for several years in a row. This kind of selection naturally attracted criticism and disputes. Some people thought that Teacher Pan's teaching skills didn't live up to her reputation, and she didn't deserve this title at all. But in the end, Teacher Pan had used her own actions to prove that she was indeed an outstanding teacher of the people. Apart from gaining a better understanding of old Pan's character, Wang Ling had also gained something else. On the street this time, the people who had come to snatch homework seemed to be one group, but were in fact two different forces. After the Palace of Mirrors incident, the Black Shadow Army, which had disappeared, had been exposed again on such an occasion. Other people might not be so sure that the second force among the killers wasn't the Black Shadow Army, but this definitely couldn't escape Wang Ling's eyes. The other party had spent a long time setting up the Palace of Mirrors, but when it came to the point of failure, they didn't even put up a fight and withdrew their entire army. The purpose behind this was very clear. They wanted nothing more than to use the Palace of Mirrors to draw out something and plan an even bigger plot. This was a far more troublesome villain than before. If the Night Chief mission was rated S, then Wang Ling felt that this new Black Shadow soldier could be rated 3S for the time being. Are there two forces? That night, Wang Ling and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had a chat via text message. The reappearance of the Black Shadow Army was great news because they still had no idea about the foundation of this force. Although no one knew what the purpose of this group of people was, it was always good to have more information. When it came to the Office of Strategic Deception's intelligence work, this job had to be handed over to the intelligence team. Currently, the team leader was Little Silver, but in fact, Little Silver's role was just to supervise the Lord and Lady of the castle. Before Mo Immortal Castle merged with the Office of Strategic Deception, it had once been the largest intelligence organization in Wuxia Nation, and even enjoyed a great international reputation. Now that they had been recruited, not only had the Lords and Ladies intelligence network not weakened, it had become even more substantial because of their funding. But this intelligence network wasn't exclusive to the Office of Strategic Deception. Most of it was also synchronized with Wuxia Alliance, and only some private commissions weren't made public. For example, the intelligence on the Black Shadow Army this time. Now that the other party had appeared in Songhai City, the key was to find out where their foundation was. Don't worry, Brother Ling, I'll take care of this matter. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal promised. At this stage, he could sense that this Black Shadow Army might be a formidable enemy that the Office of Strategic Deception would be hard to deal with in the future. So before the real battle started, it was crucial to first figure out this group. When it came to intelligence work, Wang Ling actually had a second task. But this was a private matter, so Wang Ling didn't elaborate on it with grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, and planned to wait until Little Silver arrived. This was actually about number 60 high school losing the Jade Scroll of school history. Teacher Pan had already found an excuse to take back Lotus Sun's homework, and in the process, Dog 2 had smelled the workbook. Workbooks that had been fused with the fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history were clearly different from other workbooks. Wang Ling felt that if Loopy Toad and Little Silver worked together to look for them, they should be able to find all the fragments very quickly. The monitoring equipment that Old Antique had developed under the leadership of the Academic Affairs Office only had a range of 50 meters, and it would be too risky to send killers all over Songhai City. But Loopy Toad and Little Silver were different. After Wang Ling's training, Loopy Toad's bloodline had almost reached the level of a quasi-holy beast, while Little Silver was a holy beast to begin with. Forget holy beasts, even quasi-holy beasts had an extremely high level of aura perception, and were even more accurate than some magic treasures and instruments. Wang Ling hadn't wanted to get involved in school matters at first. But this time, he decided to help out. Not for number 60 high school or Chen Xiaozong, but for Old Pan. Little Silver had been holed up in grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's villa ever since the incident in Beast King's remains. Occasionally, he would go to the Office of Strategic Deception's Internet Cafe to test Cultivation Emulator with Bai Qiao. The first stage of Cultivation Emulator's trial run was very successful and received a lot of praise from the players. However, in order to give the players a better experience, the mental link function of the holographic cabin had to be more stable, so the time of the open beta was delayed. There were actually quite a number of big shots who had participated in the first trial run. For example, Beast King and Taoist Guang. Beast King had already been redeemed from his isolation and was no longer trapped in his game world, repeating the game plot endlessly. But because he had been trapped for so long, he had completely become a game shut-in. Furthermore, he had become addicted to watching live streams and had become a fan of Taoist Guang. As for Taoist Guang, his development was even more outstanding. The number of his believers could already circle the earth. But Taoist Guang still didn't seem to have any intention of reviving himself, because being a live streamer was really too happy. Little Silver, on the other hand, wasn't idle. After becoming addicted to Father Wang, he had started to make up some stories of his own, and liked to show them to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Sometimes, he would even read them out in front of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal for praise. Grenade-throwing, grenade-throwing. What do you think of my writing? Master will definitely like it very much. These were the words that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had heard Little Silver say in recent days. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal finally realized that no matter how good he was to Little Silver, his master was still number one in Little Silver's heart. To be honest, there were times when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt a little jealous. Little Silver was lying on the sofa a little dejectedly in the morning. He had been working hard for several days and nights in a row, and he was a little tired. Brother Silver, you have to control yourself. I can't help it, that's how working hard is. But don't worry about me. Little Silver waved his hand. After that, he unhurriedly got up from the sofa and struggled to change into his clothes. I'm going out, grenade-throwing. I won't be back for dinner tonight. It's only 7 in the morning, where are you going so early? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was blank. I just checked my inbox and saw Master's message. I have to hurry over. Your aura is too weak, are you sure you're okay? It feels like I'm a little weak. This isn't like me. After saying that, Little Silver bit his finger and sucked in the holy beast blood that flowed out. Immediately, he recovered his vigor, his spirit glowing and brimming with energy. He ran to the door. I'm going out. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Chapter 1027. After such a long time, Little Silver was very excited to finally hear from Master again. Naturally, he had to be 100% alert to complete the task which Master had given him. Even cultivators who stayed up late for a long time would feel uncomfortable if they didn't meditate to regulate their breathing. Because of the heart of a holy beast, Little Silver wasn't too worried about suddenly dying. But there were still complications from staying up late, such as dark circles under the eyes, obesity due to a declining metabolism, listlessness and so on. But these weren't illnesses for Little Silver. He just needed to drink a mouthful of his own blood and he would be full of energy again. If he took the earliest spirit bus, he should be able to get to Master's house before noon. Before this, Little Silver had tried many ways to get to the Wang family's small villa. But in the end he found that taking a spirit bus was the most convenient. He couldn't play with his phone on the way, and taking a taxi was too expensive. In contrast, Little Silver would rather spend the money he had spent on a taxi on takeout. It was different if he took a spirit bus. This kind of public transportation was more economical and he could play mobile games on the way. Actually, taking the subway was also very suitable. But the Wang family's small villa was too remote and the subway didn't go directly there. The most important thing was that Little Silver really didn't want to be arrested and sent to the police station again. He had realized a very serious problem. As long as he went out alone, he would definitely be arrested and sent to the cultivation police station for tea. For Little Silver, the lunchboxes in the police station already didn't have much of an effect on him. You're not online today? Little Silver had just turned on his phone when he got on the bus when he saw that Miss Bai Chao had sent him a new message. The cultivation simulator test was about to enter the second stage, and she was going to ask Little Silver to come to the internet cafe to help test it out. Naturally, Little Silver's answer was Little Silver's refusal. No, Master is looking for me today. All right. Bai Chao expressed her understanding. Then I'll go look for old Guang and your boss. The boss she was referring to was Beast King, which was a covert title everyone had come up with after some discussion. As long as Beast King was still around, there was still a chance that the holy beast race could recover. This required something, and even more so, for Beast King to pull himself together and take on the great responsibility of the race. However, he knew that it would not be easy to get the sacred Beast King to perk up. Now, the Holy Beast clan had been completely persecuted by the game. Of course, as the boss, Beast King had thought about abdicating his position and letting Little Silver take over as the new generation's Beast King. But Little Silver was now just an 8,000-year-old baby, and was far from the required age to inherit the throne. But Little Silver actually didn't care. He wasn't interested in the position of Holy Beast King. How comfortable were their days now? Learning from Master, staying at Grenade throwing Senior Immortal's place to play games, eating takeout, drinking fat otaku Coca-Cola, and playing games. How comfortable were these days? Little Silver opened tomorrow's Arkansas. He heard that today was Billy's 10th anniversary celebration, and the game company had also given all players 1 search warrant, 5 recruitment vouchers, and 20 intermediate battle records. Little Silver felt that this game had a conscience. Then he used the extra prizes to recruit people. Accompanied by cool animation effects, white light 1, green vote 5. Conscience my ass. Little Silver roared in his heart and stomped his feet in anger. Mummy, this brother isn't wearing shoes. A cute boy next to him pointed at Little Silver's pure white feet. The boy's mother had in fact also seen it, and her expression was a little awkward, but she still taught her child not to point at other people, as it was quite impolite. Little Silver knew that this habit of his wasn't very good, but as a pure-blooded holy beast, he didn't wear shoes in his beast form. And the most important thing was that his hooves were very hard. Now that he was in human form, although he was barefoot, the soles of his feet were extremely thick, and he didn't feel any pain at all when he stepped on the ground. On the contrary, wearing shoes gave Little Silver a strange feeling of being bound. Modern society was already very open. Not wearing shoes was a person's personal freedom, and no one could interfere. Besides, Little Silver didn't think there was anything wrong with his feet. Since it didn't affect anyone else, it would be fine. Just as he was thinking this, an extremely strong stench suddenly wafted from the back seat of Little Silver's car. It was a white-collar worker in a black suit. Out of the corner of his eye, Little Silver noticed that for some reason, the soles of this white-collar little brother's feet had suddenly itched, and when no one was looking, he had secretly taken off one of his shoes and scratched the soles of his feet. Then the stench wafted out. In the next second, everyone turned to look at Little Silver, who was the only one in the car who wasn't wearing shoes. After staring for several dozen seconds, the spirit bus driver uncle couldn't take it anymore. He turned his head to look for the culprit who was giving off the stench of his feet, and the first thing he saw was Little Silver. "Little brother, please, can you put on your shoes? Otherwise, I'll have to ask you to get off the car." Little Silver felt very wronged. "This isn't my smell. You're the only one in the whole car without shoes. Who else could it be?" The shameless white-collar little brother echoed from the back seat of Little Silver. Everyone in the car was instantly stirred up. "Get off. Hurry up and get off. It stinks. It really isn't my smell." Little Silver was furious. He absolutely couldn't get off in the middle of the road. There were no bus stops along the way, and if he got off in the middle of the road, he wouldn't be able to reach the Wong family's small villa before midnight. The driver uncle pinched his nose and had an extremely resentful look in his eyes. He wouldn't provoke this kind of unreasonable passenger, because if he did, and the other party got into a scuffle with him, all the passengers in the car would suffer. Seeing that Little Silver wasn't cooperating, the driver uncle pressed the alarm on the driver's seat without another word. Roughly 2 minutes later, the nearest cultivation police station directed nearby patrol officers to the scene. The police uncle stood on his flying sword and gave a professional smile. "Sir, please come with us to the cultivation police station. We suspect that you have a biological weapon on you." Little Silver. Wong Ling called Little Silver over, intending to work with Loopy Toad to search for the whereabouts of the Black Shadow Army and help the teachers of number 60 High find the remaining fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history. In fact, the appearance of the Black Shadow Army on the streets naturally attracted the attention of the cultivation police station. The Black Shadow Army and a large number of killers had acted at the same time, but hadn't harmed a single person on the streets. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call this a conspiracy. After the incident that day, Teacher Pan, Lotus Sun and Feather Lin were all taken to the cultivation police station for statements. After some detailed questioning, the 3 of them returned home. Officer Gao at the police station studied the statements until the next day. He felt that there was something fishy about this matter, and perhaps he should report it to the higher-ups. Just as he was about to make a call, a familiar figure flashed past his office at the door. "Brother at the door, wait." Gao Mu felt that he had seen a familiar figure. The patrol officer in charge of escorting Little Silver came in. "It's like this, we just found something on the spirit car." "Found my ass. Hurry up and let him go." This was the nth time that Officer Gao Tian had seen Little Silver enter the police station. Furthermore, every time Little Silver entered the police station, the result of the investigation was that it was a misunderstanding. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that the police station would lose a lot of bento boxes. The police officer in charge of patrolling was clearly puzzled. Seeing that it was Officer Gao in the office, Little Silver was delighted. Ahahaha. So it's Officer Gao. Why are you here at this branch? Weren't you from the Anning District Cultivation Police Station? I was promoted. Congratulations. Since it's appreciated, does that mean that the police canteen in this district is bigger? Do you have any new bento boxes? Give me 20 of them, thank you. UF*** King want a foot after giving me an inch? The corners of Officer Gao's mouth twitched. No, you don't investigate the truth clearly every time, and arrest me because of a misunderstanding. I don't want compensation for mental damage, I just want to eat some food. Is that too much? Officer Gao, Tianjin. Chapter 1028. Since entering the era of national cultivation, the advent of order meant that the cultivation world was no longer a place where the strong were revered and strength ruled. In this era, cultivation level did not mean everything. If a powerful cultivator violated the morality of human relations and violated the rules and regulations, he would also be severely punished. Peace. This was the main theme for all cultivators on Earth to work together for development. But under this main theme, there were always some people who liked to take risks out of desperation and break the law. Thus, there was a need for the cultivation police to exist. In addition to specially assigned civilian policemen, the cultivation police also had a powerful cultivator patrol team under the banner of the cultivation police, the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad. This was the most basic profession in the cultivation police, and represented a large number of patrol officers. They flew on flying swords and dutifully patrolled a fixed area every day to protect the safety of the city. And the moment they received an alert, they could immediately dispatch personnel to check out the situation. Back then, Wuxia had actually also been a member of the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad. To enter the government department, most cultivators had to start with the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad. It was just that Wuxia had been luckier. He had just passed the cultivation police's assessment after graduating from university and received his Immortal Arts Mobile Squad intern certificate when the gate between worlds descended. And then, there was no then. At that time, Wuxia had become a hero of the times. As for Officer Gao Tian, he wasn't as lucky as Wuxia. But his luck had taken a turn for the better. Although Officer Gao had always felt that running into Mr. Little Silver was an ill-fated fate, in some sense, he had to admit that ever since he had met this Mr. Little Silver, his career seemed to have gone a lot smoother. It had taken him 5 years to be promoted from the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad to a second-class police officer in the police station. He didn't have to go out in public every day, and was instead responsible for handling reports from nearby residents. Then, it had taken him another 5 years to be promoted from a second-class police officer to a first-line police officer, and he was in charge of handling online public opinion in the main office. To put it bluntly, he was in charge of the operation of the official accounts on the major platforms of the local police station, as well as screening for eye-catching rumors from the media online. Occasionally, he would ask a female colleague to come forward and take a selfie to prove that the one running the official account was a beautiful policewoman, and not a rough man sitting in front of the computer every day with instant noodles in his hands. Of course, there were times when colleagues from other departments weren't free, and Gao Tian had to help out. He was in charge of interrogations. For example, during the interrogation of Little Silver, Officer Gao had taken the initiative to help out, which was how they had run into each other. As an outstanding first-class cultivator police officer, Officer Gao enjoyed the work day after day, even though it looked very boring. A Class 1 police officer could be promoted online to a Class 1 superintendent with his own office. Gao Tian originally thought that he would need to spend another 5 or even 10 years to reach that step. In the end, he hadn't expected the leader to suddenly call him up one day after arresting Little Silver twice. When Officer Gao received the call, she was excited. The officer on the other end of the line told him that due to personnel changes, there happened to be an empty superintendent position in another district. After careful screening by the higher-ups, they found that he had the best merit points and overall performance, so he was promoted. Gao Tian didn't know if this had anything to do with Little Silver. However, there was indeed a saying: silver unicorns would bring luck to the people around them. This luck was like a Wi-Fi signal that spread out, allowing others to absorb this luck. Thus, after other people absorbed Little Silver's luck, Little Silver himself would become very unlucky. This was also the reason why Little Silver was sent to the police station every time he went out. Because there were too many people around him. They sucked away his luck. On the contrary, it wouldn't be a problem for him to stay at home and be a fat shut-in. In the end, Gao Tian used his meal card to order 20 portions of canteen lunchboxes for Little Silver. Little Silver was actually right. They had caught the wrong person, so they had to make it up to him. Besides, this brother Little Silver indeed didn't have foot odor after being verified. When they bought the lunchboxes, Gao Tian took Little Silver to a pond next to the police station to verify it. If it really was the kind of stinky feet that reeked to the heavens, the fish in the pond would definitely turn belly up. In the end, not only were there no dead fish, a few lotus flowers instantly bloomed in the pond, stunning all the police officers. If you're done eating, hurry up and leave. Gao Tian put a pile of lunchboxes in front of Little Silver in a bad mood, looking as if he had already lost to Little Silver. He knew that given Little Silver's appetite, a mere 20 portions might not even be enough. Little Silver didn't stand on ceremony. He went out without breakfast. It wouldn't be bad to have an appetizer before he rushed over to Master's house. The food at the police station had always been very good. Even if he had already eaten it, Little Silver still thought it was delicious, because these lunchboxes were free. Little Silver knew that it might be a little shameless to say this, but was there anything more delicious than free food? As Little Silver ate, he saw Gao Tian's frowning face. In fact, Gao Tian currently had 2 cases to deal with. One was the large-scale collision between killers and a mysterious force that had taken place in his jurisdiction yesterday. Just as he was about to report it to his superiors, Little Silver arrived. It was only at that moment that Officer Gao had just sent the report through an official internal email channel. But there was no hurry with the first matter. Since there wasn't any progress, he still had to wait for instructions from his superiors. What really gave Gao Tian a headache was actually the second case. This was a serial murder that had taken place in his jurisdiction. At the moment, the suspects had already spread to an entire apartment building, and everyone was suspected of committing the crime. But Officer Gao couldn't find any substantial evidence. The mastermind behind this serial murder was very cunning. He had laid out a meticulous and rational plan, and couldn't even use magic to erase any traces of the crime scene. This was enough to prove that the mastermind hadn't left behind any evidence when he had killed the first person, so he hadn't needed to use magic to clean up the crime scene at all. What kind of case is it? Little Silver took a bite of braised pork meatball and stared at Gao Tian. Gao Tian, Mr. Little Silver, this is an internal matter of our police station. I know, but even if it's an internal matter, it doesn't mean we can't ask for outside help. Little Silver said as he ate. Don't look at me like this. I'm actually also a team leader of the Office of Strategic Deception. Maybe I can help you. The Office of Strategic Deception? Gao Tian was blank for a moment, and then stood up with a stunned expression on his face. He was sure he hadn't heard wrong. This was a super sect that had been set up in the shortest time possible in the cultivation world, and had also become the #1 light sect at the fastest speed. What Gao Tian hadn't expected even more was that Little Silver was actually one of them, and a cadre at that. Gao Tian thought about it carefully, and in the end, he thought of something that terrified him to the core. He remembered that Little Silver had been brought to the police station twice before, and the person who had come to help him with the bail procedures seemed to have been that chief of the Office of Strategic Deception, grenade-throwing senior immortal himself. Chapter 1029. Is this the place? In the end, Gao Tian took Little Silver to the scene of the apartment. Little Silver looked at the terrain and felt that it looked familiar. There was no mistaking it. He had been here before. Isn't there an apartment for family members nearby? I have a friend who lives there, Little Silver said. That's right. Gao Tian nodded. This was also one of the main reasons why the higher-ups had demanded that this serial murder case be solved and the murderer found as soon as possible. The people who lived in the family apartment were all retired senior cadres of Wuxia Nation's political circle. Such a large murder case in their jurisdiction had greatly disrupted the lives of these retirees, as well as the stability of the surrounding area. In fact, the crime rate in Songhai City was still very low, and murders were even rarer. This was another important reason why the higher-ups attached so much importance to this case. There was a family apartment in this area. Everybody knew that the security management of the place where there was a family apartment must be excellent. However, knowing that there was a family apartment, the murderer still chose to take action in this area. It was obvious that he was extremely confident in his means of committing the crime. It could even be said that this was a judicial provocation that despised the laws and disciplines of the cultivation world. Little Silver and Gao Tian stood at the entrance of the apartment building, which had 6 floors in total and was called Divine Leisure Apartment. "Take me in to have a look." Little Silver took out his phone to look at the time. "Are you in a hurry?" "I have to go to East Huang Road before 12. So, we just need to solve the case before 11 o'clock. Gao Tian sucked in a breath. It was already 9 o'clock. Solve the case in 2 hours? Who did you think you were, Detective Conan? Even Conan needed 20 minutes. But now that things had come to this, Gao Tian felt that it was good to let Little Silver have a look. In any case, he was here to reinvestigate the crime scene. When he entered the residential building, Little Silver noticed that the security office had already set up a temporary police station downstairs. When several police officers saw Gao Tian, they stood at attention and saluted him. "Captain Gao. Are you all registered?" "Everything is going according to plan," replied a police officer. Since there was no conclusive evidence, all the residents in the building were listed as suspects, and their movements were monitored. They had to register when they went out and when they came back until the suspect was found. On one hand, this measure was to find clues about the murderer, and on the other hand, it was in fact to protect the safety of the other residents. Since there was a police station downstairs, the murderer presumably wouldn't have the guts to commit another murder in the short term. "Give me a police officer pass," said Gao Tian. The officer at the police station helped Little Silver register and then gave him a badge. "Captain Gao, may I ask what this is?" "I've hired an outside expert from the Office of Strategic Deception. I'm asking him to help this time to see if there are any clues," replied. "An expert from the Office of Strategic Deception." The policemen looked at each other in astonishment. Little Silver took the tag and put it around his neck, then started to sniff the ground. As Gao Tian had told him on the way here, 3 people had died in this apartment recently, and Little Silver could very clearly distinguish them by smell. The blood of the dead usually smelled of resentment. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to tell, but as a holy beast, Little Silver could. Little Silver got up from the ground and clapped his hands. 3 people really died. I thought you were lying to me. That's why you were lying on the ground. I'm just smelling it to confirm the truth. 1 died on the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th floors, right? This was Gao Tian's first time seeing someone handling a case like this. But he had to admit that Little Silver was indeed very amazing. The murders had taken place on the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th floors, and he had been able to sniff out the scent from the 1st floor. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. On the way here, he had only told Little Silver that a few people had died, but hadn't told him exactly where the floor was. "Follow me." Gao Tian nodded. He took Little Silver up the stairs and began to investigate each floor. The first victim was a golden core stage cultivator from room 202. He was a 440-year-old young man. His main occupation was an alchemist, so he basically never went out. When he died, he was only halfway through refining the elixir in his furnace, and the range hood was working normally. We immediately extracted the gas from the range hood and detected a trace of dark night fragrance. Dark night fragrance? It's a banned drug sold on the dark network. Just a trace of it can cause hallucinations in people. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any traces of the murderer's intrusion, nor were we able to find any clues on this alchemist. His corpse had already been incinerated at the first instant. After committing the crime, the murderer threw it straight into the alchemy furnace. Gao Tian said, "We can only deduce from the bloodstains left after the fight between the alchemist and the murderer that this alchemist was the first victim." "An acquaintance? Not likely. This alchemist usually lived alone, and he wasn't a local. Even his neighbors didn't know much about him. In other people's eyes, he was a very mysterious man." So the problem now is that you don't know how the murderer broke into the house, killed everyone, and didn't leave any clues, right? That's one of the suspicious points. Gao Tian said as he walked. After the murderer committed the first murder in room 202, it was 24 hours before he attacked the second person on the third floor. The person who died was Li Daofei, an online live streamer. Like the first alchemist, she usually didn't go out. Her main source of income was through live streaming, and she usually did some talent shows where she swallowed spirit swords. But what the murderer didn't expect was that Li Daofei was doing a live streaming at the time. She was killed as soon as she opened the door. Her fans heard a loud noise, and when they saw that Li Daofei hadn't come back, they decided to call the police. Then, the third victim was a coder. It was also 24 hours before the murderer chose to make his move. At that time, we had only done a preliminary investigation of the scene, and the murderer committed the third murder when the police had already arrived. This was a provocation to us. Are they all homebody occupations? Little Silver shivered, because he also liked to stay at home. He hadn't expected to see 3 homebodies killed just like that. Now he finally knew where the nickname, Damn Homebody, came from. So what if they were homebodies? Who had they offended at home? Little Silver clenched his teeth as he thought about how to get rid of the murderer. At that moment, he suddenly raised his head and stared upstairs. The fourth one. What fourth one? It's on the 6th floor. I can smell the 4th victim, said Little Silver. Chapter 10:30. Gao Tian couldn't help gritting his teeth. This murderer was too bold. In broad daylight, and most importantly, with the patrol police already stationed in the apartment, he still dared to commit murder in public? This was completely not putting the police in their eyes. Little Silver rushed up with Gao Tian. At the door of the suite in room 605, Little Silver could smell the strong smell of blood. He kicked the door open with his bare feet. He didn't use much strength, but the door was sent flying into the wall of the living room. Gao Tian hurriedly summoned his police sword and rushed in. A police sword was standard issue for a police superintendent. Its hilt was shaped like a gun handle, and could be used as a gun or as a melee weapon. After being at ease with it, the sword could even be turned into an explosion-proof spirit escape with myriad uses. He was worried that the murderer was still in the room, so he cautiously approached step by step with the spirit sword in hand. Then, Gao Tian and Little Silver saw a young man lying on a computer chair with his neck tilted. His neck had been cut open, and blood splattered on the computer screen. Although his windpipe had already been cut open, it wasn't completely severed. Hearing that someone was coming, the young man started to struggle with all his might. He couldn't speak, and the expression on his face was extremely panicked. "Don't be afraid, I'm a police officer." Gao Tian pressed down on the young man's shoulder, took out all his tools and prepared to give him first aid. So far, no one had seen what the murderer looked like or how he had committed the murder. If they could save this young man, it would be a major breakthrough in the case. It had to be said that Gao Tian's mind was very calm, and he didn't let himself panic. But looking at the bottles and jars on the ground, Little Silver frowned deeply. "Are these of any use?" "His windpipe has already been cut open. I've already called an ambulance. It's just basic first aid." To be honest, even Gao Tian himself didn't know if he could be saved. Little Silver lowered his eyes slightly. After thinking for a bit, he bit his finger and squeezed a drop of holy beast blood onto the young man's wound, and then another drop of blood onto the young man's lips. Spirit power turned into steam, and the young man's injury healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. "This is..." Gao Tian was taken aback. "Don't tell anyone." Little Silver looked at Gao Tian. He didn't know if this was the right thing to do. After all, using one's own blood to treat an outsider risked exposing one's identity. "Thanks." Gao Tian nodded and didn't say anything else. 2 drops of holy beast blood pulled the young man back from the brink of death. He was horrified, but at the same time, he was grateful. Fortunately, he did not see how he was saved. He only felt that the silver-haired man behind him seemed to have dripped something on his wound. After that, he seemed to have come back to life, and his breathing began to become smooth. He must have used some kind of secret medicine on me? The young man thought. As a person who had walked on the edge of hell, The young man would not think so much. He did not care how he was saved at all. He only knew that he was lucky to have survived. Gao Tian then began to question the young man in danger. He turned on the recording function of the police sword, and after entering the recording mode, the sword began to flash red. Little Silver's lips twitched. This sword was too omnipotent. What's your name? Work. My name is Shen Guangrong. This year, I graduated from a Jindan University. Now, I'm doing my graduation design at home. What major? Spirit Sword Design Major. I'm in the Magic Treasure Design Department. I specialize in designing the shape of magic treasures. Gao Tian nodded. Don't be afraid. We're here, so the murderer won't do anything to you. Tell me what on earth happened just now. The young man clenched his fists and started to sweat on his forehead. To be honest, his encounter just now had been too fast. It had almost happened in the blink of an eye, and he had no idea what had happened at all. Unfortunately, officer, I didn't see the murderer clearly, Shin Guangrong said. Then, he looked at the laptop in front of him with lingering fear. There was a pair of hands that suddenly reached out from the computer. I didn't even have time to react before they started attacking me with blades. Then my throat was slit. Computer screen murder? Gao Tian was shocked. What kind of hands were those? Those hands were hairy and a little black. They looked like the hands of a middle-aged man. The nails were very long, and there were some bloodstains between the nails. It looks like it should be the same murderer. Based on the details provided by classmate Shen Guangrong, Gao Tian determined that the person who had attacked Shen Guangrong this time was the murder suspect in this serial murder case. Judging from the description of the hands, this should be a dark-skinned man who was about 1.7 meters tall and weighed about 130 kg. The murderer hadn't cleaned the bloodstains between the nails. He probably regarded them as something like a metal and couldn't bear to wash them off. From this, Gao Tian determined that this murderer was 100% mentally ill. But to kill someone through a screen, Gao Tian had indeed never encountered such a method before. There were many methods in the cultivation world. To kill someone through a screen, one had to transform one's body into spirit fiber. It wasn't that there weren't such spells, since many delivery companies in the cultivation world already had a screen transmission service. But the problem was that the transmission was inanimate. To break down a person's body into something as ethereal as spirit fiber and then reassemble it on the other side of the screen, in Gao Tian's opinion, this was simply playing with fire. Furthermore, given Songhai City's level of cultivation technology, the network police at the terminal would be able to detect it in an instant if a live body was really transmitted through a screen. Gao Tian already knew the murderer's modus operandi. Indeed, killing someone through a screen could be done silently and without leaving the slightest trace. But there were still some inexplicable suspicious points in this murder case. For example, the murderer had slit the throat of the college student Shen Guangrong who had just been in danger, which was very similar to the coder who had died on the 5th floor. However, this didn't match the alchemist and the female online live streamer who had died first. The alchemist's house was decorated in a classical style, and there wasn't anything like a computer screen. If the murderer had wanted to break in, there had to be other methods. As for the female online live streamer, if she had really been killed through a screen, she would have died in front of the audience. In fact, it was confirmed that she had been killed when she had opened the door. Was it really possible for the same murderer to use two completely different killing methods? Was it to confuse the public? Or were there actually two murderers from the beginning? Chapter 1031. There were two murderers. Gao Tian felt that he wasn't far from the truth. To be honest, if it hadn't been for Little Silver, they might still have been fooled by this suspect. Now that they knew the suspect's modus operandi, everything seemed to fall into place. The next step was for the police to get busy. The next step was to cast a net and set up a trap so that the suspect would take the initiative to offer himself into the trap. Thanks to Little Silver, Gao Tian was already able to produce the first phase of the murder investigation report when he returned to the police station that day. At the same time, the university student Shen Guangrong, who had almost been killed, also followed Gao Tian back to the police station. Worried that Shen Guangrong would fall victim again, Gao Tian immediately decided to take him back to the police station to protect him as an important witness. But for Shen Guangrong, he was pretty unlucky. It was almost time to hand in his graduation design, and he hadn't expected to run into this sort of thing. I'm going to report on the current situation. More than 10 senior police superintendents sat in the lecture hall, and Gao Tian stood at the very front as the team leader in charge of this operation. With the help of team leader Little Silver of the Office of Strategic Deception, we've already found out that the murderer killed people through an electronic screen. Everyone was in an uproar. Silence. Gao Tian cleared his throat. This method is very risky and technically very difficult, so we suspect that the suspect's realm should be above the soul formation stage. We'll ask our superiors to deploy senior Immortal police officers from the Immortal Patrol Division to cooperate with the next arrest operation. At the same time, based on the investigation at the scene, we suspect that there are 2 murderers. The 2 of them should be in the same party. Accomplices? Do you have any proof? Someone asked, raising his hand. First of all, the 2 of them chose the same crime targets. Shut-in men and shut-in women. Of course, the most important piece of evidence is. Saying this, Gao Tian produced a report. He pressed down on the police sword in his hand, and the T on the screen instantly changed. According to the investigation by the Police Intelligence Department, the 3 victims who already died, the alchemist, the female online live streamer, the coder monkey, and student Shen, who was almost killed, all graduated from the same university, which is called Songhai Magic Treasure Development University. Graduated from the same university? The high-ranking police superintendents began to whisper to each other. The result of the investigation was obviously unexpected to everyone. They had thought that this was just a psychopathic murderer who committed crimes indiscriminately, but from the relationship between the victims, this series of murders might be a carefully planned revenge. As for why he had chosen students from Songhai Magic Treasure Development University, and why some of them had even graduated many years ago, Gao Tian was still investigating. But what was certain was that the next time the murderer committed a crime, he would definitely target the students of this university for revenge. This was the reason why Gao Tian brought Shen Guangrong back. According to Gao Tian's investigation, after the 3 victims had died in Divine Leisure Apartments, Shen Guangrong was the last student in the apartment building who was enrolled in Magic Treasure Development University. Since Shenzhen Apartments was cheap and it was very close to Songhai Magic Treasure Development University, it wasn't strange that there were students from that university. However, in reality, there were many dormitories close to Magical Treasure Development University. Gao Tian suspected that there must be a reason why the murderer chose Divine Leisure Dormitory. Now, let me talk about our next step. After thinking about it, Gao Tian gave new instructions. Thoroughly investigate the relationships, studies and living conditions of the 3 victims and student Shun during his time at university, and find out what they have in common. At the same time, inform Magic Treasure Development University students who are renting apartments on their own that they must turn off the screen delivery function before the murders are solved, and also turn on the network firewall. This way, if they encounter any unidentified objects passing through their screens, they can directly report it to the police station. In 3 days, before midnight on September 18th, no matter where you are, please work with me to arrest the murderer in this case. Saying this, Gao Tian bowed deeply to the high-ranking police superintendents below him. It was September 18th, 17 days before the end of the summer break. After figuring out the murderer's modus operandi with Little Silver's help, Gao Tian began to carry out further investigations around Divine Leisure Dormitory. At the same time, Little Silver and Loopy Toad were carrying out a mission personally issued by Wang Ling to find the remaining fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history and to search for the Black Shadow Army's hiding base. The Fate Dao that group of people mastered was very special. According to Divine Dao Star-Lord, Fate Dao was a kind of power that could be shared. In other words, these Black Shadow soldiers were currently in a symbiotic relationship. They were as thorny as weeds. Wildfires couldn't burn them down, and they would grow again when the spring wind blew. If they didn't ferret out the mastermind behind the scenes, it would be difficult to eradicate them, and they would immediately come back to life after they died. Little Silver strolled along the streets with Loopy Toad. Their first task was to collect the fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history. After all, there wasn't much time left until the end of the summer break. A man and a dog passed by a park. Buttface could smell the aura of a piece of debris nearby. Hurrying over with Little Silver, they saw a high school student doing language exercises. This wasn't a kid who had come out to copy homework, but the son of the shop owner in the park, who was doing his homework as he looked after the shop. Dog 2 glanced at his school uniform and realized that the youngster was from number 59 high school. "Hello, classmate." Little Silver walked over. "Which problem can't you solve?" "You are?" The youngster looked up. "I'm actually a tuition teacher." Little Silver casually gave up his identity. Looking at the exercise scroll in the youngster's hand, he then took out a sack from his pocket. From inside, he took out an identical one. The homework in this sack was already done. Pen and eraser, these two gremlins, had spent the whole night doing nearly 1,000 copies of their summer vacation homework, which included all the major exercises that high school students would encounter during the break. As for their ultimate goal, it was very obvious: to trade, exchanging the completed homework for the unfinished ones. Provided that the jade scroll of school history fragment that Little Silver and the others were looking for was in that homework. "I have some completed ones here. Do you want to trade?" Little Silver took out the exercise scroll and handed it over. The youngster opened it and looked at the neat handwriting on the scroll. The answers were correct, but at the same time, he was a little hesitant. "Is this okay?" Teachers generally don't check summer vacation homework. It's fine as long as you finish it. Also, the homework is written in square regular script, which is relatively easy to imitate if you write it seriously. Little Silver tricked him. "Look at you. You've been struggling for so long with just one question." Then he glanced at the paper the youngster was working on. It was a connecting question. The question was, which profession did the following 8 soul questions correspond to? The 8 professions were keymaker, canteen auntie, fortune teller, delivery boy, garbage sorter, express driver, hairdresser, and neighborhood security guard. The corresponding soul questions were: do you deserve to be a beggar? Who do you think you are? What are you? What kind of trash are you? Have you figured out your position? Take a look in the mirror and see if you think you can do it. And who are you? Where do you come from? And where do you want to go? The youngster had actually finished connecting the lines. But after that, the young man began to think about life, until Little Silver and Dog 2 appeared. Tianjin. Chapter 1032. Little Silver and Loopy Toad believed that anyone who saw these 8 questions of the soul would ponder deeply about their own lives. As far as Little Silver was concerned, he actually felt that this question was quite up to date with the times. Ever since the pilot project in Songhai City had started in the last few months, the entire city's citizens had been busy sorting out garbage. Bastard, you still want to find me. They might even seize your spirit sword on the spot and make you help pick up rubbish in the city. You'd only be done after picking up 5 kilograms of rubbish. Therefore, if you saw a person carrying a black sack in the middle of the night, acting suspiciously, this person might not be a thief, but someone who came out to throw rubbish. If you don't throw the garbage at this time, there will be a row of garbage sorting aunties standing in front of the garbage room in the morning waiting for you with a smile on their faces. They will ask you, "What kind of garbage are you?" Thank you for your cooperation. Little Silver successfully exchanged Chinese test papers with student Shen Guangrong from number 59 high school. Student Shen was overjoyed. "Can I change my other homework too?" Little Silver glanced at student Shen. "Do the rest yourself. Didn't your mother teach you not to be opportunistic and take advantage of the situation?" Student Shen. Little Silver, how can you improve without doing homework? If you don't improve, how are you going to get into a good university? If you don't get into a good university, how are you going to reach the pinnacle of your life? How are you going to marry a rich and beautiful woman? Then, student Shen fell into deep thought again. In any case, he had already gotten what he wanted, so Little Silver didn't think he was going overboard. Being opportunistic was wrong in itself. Dog 2 found a secluded spot at the entrance of the little shop in the park and drew up a transmission array. The specific coordinates were Headmaster Chen's office. After receiving the homework, they wouldn't choose to take it with them, because doing so might attract the attention of the number 60 high teachers who were hiding nearby. Thus, Little Silver and Loopy Toad had already come up with a plan. They would send one back whenever they collected a book. In any case, the magic array used for item transmission wasn't complicated. They just needed to know the coordinates. Loopy Toad stretched out its dog paw and injected spirit energy into its nail. It then drew a fairly smooth circle in the dirt, and then directly used its nail to carve words into the circle. As everyone knew, the hardest part of drawing an array was not carving out words, but drawing circles. If the circle wasn't perfectly drawn, the formation wouldn't be able to activate properly. Therefore, drawing circles was a basic lesson for array masters. It tested the stability of one's hand. Whether an array master was strong or not could be seen from the stage of drawing circles. Powerful array masters have many ways to draw circles. Not only can they draw circles, but they can also draw them quickly. The sky-swallowing toad clan was one of the few powerful demon king clans in the demon world known for their support of photons. Arrays were actually one of the compulsory subjects for the sky-swallowing toad clan. Hence, Loopy Toad was in fact already very skilled at drawing magic arrays. The whole process took less than 2 minutes. Loopy Toad then put the language test paper into the magic array. It recited a spell and formed a seal with its paw. In a flash of golden light, the language test paper was accurately teleported to Headmaster Chen's office. Loopy Toad then dug up the dirt on the side to cover up the magic array. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, it turned its head and said to Little Silver, "Let's go to the next house." At noon, Loopy Toad took Little Silver to the vicinity of a university. At the school gate, several courier little brothers were fretting. They were in a hurry to make their next order, but they couldn't get in touch with the school's recipient for a long time. Little Silver moved closer to take a look, and saw clearly that the school's stone tablet said, Songhai Magic Treasure Development University. So this is it. Little Silver sighed. "What's wrong?" asked Loopy Toad. "It's the university I told you about yesterday that the serial killer is targeting," Little Silver replied in a low voice. Loopy Toad nodded and instantly understood. Because the killer had committed the crime through a screen, the convenient delivery function of the entire school had been cut off to ensure the safety of the students while the killer hadn't been apprehended. If the students wanted to receive their packages, they could only follow the old method of having the courier place the packages at the school gate at noon and wait for people to pick them up. Of course, the most troublesome thing was that these packages didn't have real names. For the sake of privacy and safety, some students used their own netizens. As Little Silver and Loopy Toad drew closer, they saw several courier little brothers shouting at the school gate at the top of their lungs, "I'm the daddy you'll never get! I'm the daddy you'll never get! Hurry up and pick up your package! Crossdresser! Crossdresser! I have your package! Hurry up and pick it up! I'm leaving right now! Oni-chan! I have your package!" In a few short minutes, there were all kinds of fancy recipient names. Everyone. "Are you sure the fragment is here? This is a university." Little Silver stood at the gate and looked around, a little hesitant about whether to go in or not. He suspected that Loopy Toad had gotten the wrong location. "There's no mistaking it, it's here." Loopy Toad shook its head. It was very confident in its sense of smell. Little Silver followed Dog 2 inside. The security uncle was going to stop them at first, but when he saw the medal on Little Silver's chest, he immediately stopped. This was a custom-made medal for the team leader of the Office of Strategic Deception. As the Light Force ranked first in overall strength in Wuxia Nation, the Office of Strategic Deception's reputation was already known throughout the country. The security uncle couldn't figure out which higher-up of the Office of Strategic Deception Little Silver was, but after recognizing the medal, he didn't stop him. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had given the medal to prevent Little Silver from being taken into the police station again when he was walking alone on the street. As it turned out, the medal was even more useful than Little Silver had imagined. The canteen up ahead. Loopy Toad led Little Silver forward. As they approached the canteen entrance, Little Silver's gaze focused on a university student who was riding at a tremendous speed. There was no doubt that this was a female university student from Magic Treasure Development University. Next to her seat was a thick stack of high school exercise papers. "What are you doing?" Loopy Toad was blank at this scene. A university student doing a high school student's homework. Little Silver could only think of one possibility. He slowly walked over and stared at the long-haired girl who was writing at a tremendous speed. The girl's meal card was still on the table, and Little Silver almost immediately saw the girl's name. Lin Shuyao. "Are you helping someone else with their homework?" Little Silver asked. Lin Shuyao tucked back her long hair and raised her head to give Little Silver a lazy look. "It's 100 yuan for an ordinary subject exercise book, 200 yuan for an accurate copy of the subject exercise book, and 100 yuan for an examination paper." After saying that, Lin Shuyao took out a QR code from around her neck and put it on the table. Scan the code to pay, and I'll get everything done today. Little Silver and Loopy Toad. Chapter 1033. It was obvious that this wasn't Lin Shuyao's first time doing this, but she was very open and frank. Ghostwriting homework was originally a job she did behind the scenes, but this girl actually didn't shy away from taking orders in the canteen at all. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that the campus delivery service had been forced to go manual because of the serial murders this time, Lin Shuyao would have stayed in her dormitory and never come out. She took this job very seriously because the amount of orders she took each winter and summer break earned her 60 to 70 times more money than the scholarships she received at school. Not only could she pay for her own school fees, but she could also earn a lot of money by ghostwriting homework during the winter and summer breaks. Helping people with homework, both parties had to be willing to put a price on it. This wasn't against the law, and even if the police found out, they couldn't do anything about it. Under normal circumstances, there were even parents who personally came over to pay for Lin Shuyao to do homework for them because their students couldn't finish their homework. In the industry of doing homework for people during the winter and summer holidays, Lin Shuyao could be said to be the leader of this industry. As for why she was the boss, it was actually very obvious. After Lin Shuyao took out the payment QR code, she saw that Little Silver and Loopy Toad were still hesitating, so she casually put it on the table. She didn't stop working, and as she wrote, she spoke to the people behind her. "I'm busy right now. Help me receive the customers." "All right." Behind him, someone immediately responded. Only then did Little Silver realize that Lin Shuyao actually needed help. Behind her, there were 10 tables full of university students who were ghostwriting homework. It turned out that this ghostwriting gang was pretty big. Little Silver was dumbfounded. This was a team that Lin Shuyao had specially hired because ordinary university students didn't have Lin Shuyao's reputation and could receive such a large number of orders. So Lin Shuyao had come up with the idea of pulling them in. On the basis of her annual work, she would receive an additional order for the other university students to do, and she would sign a sharing agreement with those university students. She would only take 30% of the amount of the ghostwriting homework as an intermediary fee. Just like that, Lin Shuyao's team grew bigger and bigger. There were 4 people at a table in the cafeteria, and there were a total of 40 people working under Lin Shuyao. There were as many as 10 tables. Furthermore, in order to ensure the quality of the homework, Lin Shuyao had even divided up the homework. Some people were specifically responsible for the language homework, some were specifically responsible for the talismans class homework, and there were also those who were proficient in alchemy techniques and spirit sword techniques who were responsible for the extra homework. There was even an external filming team that could cosplay as the employer and specifically shoot videos to complete some extra practical extracurricular activities designated by the school. "How many fragments?" Little Silver gave Loopy Toad a meaningful look and asked telepathically. "There are at least 6 fragments here." Loopy Toad replied. Lin Shuyao had a lot of employers, and because a lot of the work in the city was concentrated on her, Little Silver and Loopy Toad had saved a lot of trouble. "There's something I hope you can help me with." Silver bent over with his hands on his knees and smiled warmly. Buttface jumped onto a chair in the canteen and sat there obediently, wagging his tail as he stared at Lin Shuyao. Miss Lin glanced at Little Silver and Loopy Toad, but she didn't stop working. Behind her, the person who had been in charge of reception saw that Little Silver had come specifically for Lin Shuyao, and quietly sat back down. "Unfortunately, I'm very busy right now. If you're asking about the serial murder case, I can't tell you right now. A police officer with the surname Gao already asked me about it once, and I don't want to answer him again." Lin Shuyao was a very efficient person. Police officer with the surname Gao? Little Silver was blank. It seemed that Gao Tian had already been here and had interrogated the school students about the murders. But that wasn't why Little Silver and Loopy Toad were here, so he patiently sat down in front of this Miss Lin. Little Silver had plenty of time to wait. There were 6 fragments here, and their workload today had originally been to collect 5. In the end, Lin Shuyao felt uncomfortable when Little Silver sat down. She was a single, decent woman from a good family. While she was ghostwriting someone's homework in broad daylight, there was actually a handsome guy sitting in front of her and staring at her as she did her homework. Lin Shuyao had never experienced this kind of thing before. Lin Shuyao could be considered a celebrity at Magic Treasure Development University. With Little Silver sitting in front of her and watching her do her homework, She actually felt that the atmosphere in the air wasn't right. Wow, who's that silver-haired young man?
He's so good-looking. And he has a green-furred dog? Is he Lin Shiyao's boyfriend? I always thought she was a celibate type.
Damn big news.
Lin Shiyao actually has a boyfriend.
The above was all Lin Shiyao's fantasy. Lin Shiyao shook her head hard. She felt that if she went on like this, she would definitely have auditory hallucinations.
What on earth do you want?
A few minutes later, Lin Shiyao finally stopped what she was doing under Little Silver's innocent smile. The customer's quality was always number one. With Little Silver sitting there staring at her, Lin Shiyao already felt that she couldn't carry on with her work normally. But she couldn't get angry with Little Silver. Most university girls actually liked the little puppy look, and Little Silver actually just happened to be this type. His smile was like a spring breeze, and even the shadow in her heart dissipated by more than half. When Lin Shiyao raised her head to look at Little Silver, she felt as if the person sitting in front of her was a small sun. Warm and soft, but not so dazzling. She wanted to reach out and touch it, but didn't burn herself.
Are you finally willing to talk to me? Little Silver continued to smile.
Don't say such misleading things. If you have something to say it quickly. Lin Shiyao blushed and immediately lowered her head.
Dog too wasn't envious of this scene.
Sure enough, it was good to be good-looking.
I wonder when I can take human form.
Loopy Toad pondered as it stared at Little Silver's human form. It had always been worried that its human form would be very ugly. In countless dreams, it even dreamed that when it transformed into a human, its skin was green, and even its hair was green. When it walked in the night, it would even emit a fluorescent light. It was the kind of green that even the Hulk would concede defeat. Loopy Toad felt that it wouldn't be able to accept it if it was too ugly. After adapting to living in the human world, Loopy Toad actually realized that it also had the burden of being an idol, and understood the importance of good looks. This was an era where looks were everything. If you had a good-looking face, you could eliminate a lot of your worries.
Chapter 1034.
It was human nature to love beauty. While one's looks were something you were born with, there had always been an endless supply of magic and elixirs in the cultivation world to change one's appearance based on each person's different aesthetic needs. Cultivators didn't need to use a knife at all for cosmetic surgery, and it was very safe. Youth Retaining Pill. It can optimize your original facial features to a certain extent, improve the condition of your skin, and make you look younger. Among them, Huagua Water Curtain Group's Youth Retaining Pill was the most famous. Of course, if you wanted to completely change your appearance, you could use a face-shaping pill. Within half an hour after taking it, your face would be as malleable as plasticine. However, face-shaping pills weren't usually sold to the public. This was a hospital cosmetic department's allocation, and the doctors responsible for shaping the face had to pass a face-shaping exam and obtain the relevant qualification certificate before they could use it. The truth was that Loopy Toad wasn't worried about how ugly it would be in human form. It was worried that its hair would be very strange. There were a lot of green-haired men in cartoons, but if they were in real life, they would definitely look very strange. Of course, the fear of being ugly was not something everyone had. For example, Little Master Ling was worried that he was too handsome, and had forcibly pulled his appearance down to average standards. Face was something you were born with.
Loopy Toad stared at Lin Shiyao.
Although it had only known Lin Shiyao for a few short minutes, it could already feel the charm of this good-looking straight-A student. A group of college students doing homework for someone else taking orders in the school cafeteria with great fanfare was definitely a beautiful sight. Letting Little Silver continue to stay here would disturb her work, so Lin Shiyao listened to his request patiently. Little Silver didn't go into detail, and just told Miss Lin that for some reason, they needed to exchange some specific exercise books and test papers. Lin Shiyao took the exercise books from Little Silver's hands and stared at them. The handwriting was neat and extremely beautiful. Furthermore, Lin Shiyao had never seen the handwriting on them before. Thus, Lin Shiyao agreed to Little Silver's request. It's up to you how much you want to exchange. Then, she buried her head in her homework again.
Thank you.
The exchange was a success. Little Silver and Loopy Toad were pleasantly surprised to receive 6 fragments in one go. Out of the corner of her eye, Lin Shiyao sized up the 4 test papers and 2 exercise books which Little Silver had exchanged, and couldn't help feeling an itch in her heart. Brooding over the beautiful handwriting, She suddenly had an idea. She really wanted to meet the owner of such beautiful handwriting. Who wrote this homework? Lin Shuyao asked without raising her head. To be exact, Master wrote it, Little Silver replied. He was well aware that pen and eraser, these two gremlins, were merely acting on Little Master Ling's will. While they would help Little Master Ling with his homework, there were also rigid rules. 1. The homework must be questions that he has already completely mastered. 2. The two gremlins, eraser and pen, are unable to help with emotional expression topics such as essays. Apart from these two hardcore conditions, the rest were up to Wang Ling. He could even set the handwriting on the exercise books. Most of the exercise books were in square and regular script, but because some of the questions were emotional expressions, Wang Ling had to write them himself since pen and eraser couldn't work together. Although there weren't many questions, it was Wang Ling's handwriting that deeply captured Lin Shiyao's attention. One silver and one dog could see through Miss Lin's thoughts, and they couldn't help sighing in their hearts. It could only be said that Little Master Ling was in the end Little Master Ling. Without even going out, he could casually win over a university girl and an incomparably beautiful and abstinent female top student. It wasn't strange that they could see through Lin Shiyao's thoughts. Little Silver was a holy beast, while Loopy Toad was a quasi-holy beast. On top of that, the Silver Dog and the Silver Dog had long since comprehended the Sacred Heart illumination ability from their private conversations. Although this ability wasn't as powerful as Wang Ling's mind-reading ability, which could radiate infinitely far away, it could still read a person's inner thoughts at a close distance. The truth was that Loopy Toad didn't even think it needed the Bright Saint Heart ability at all when it came to Lin Shuyao. This kind of young girl, who was still in puberty, could completely betray her inner thoughts with just her expression alone. I don't know what you're looking for, but it looks like the things you're looking for are probably mixed in with this group of children's high school summer vacation homework, right? Lin Shuyao cupped her chin as she tried hard to think of a possible course of action in her mind. Finally, she gritted her teeth. How about this? I'll make a deal with you. I'll increase the number of orders and help the girls collect as much homework as possible. That way, you might be able to find everything faster. So that's how it works. Little Silver pondered for a moment, but at the same time he was worried that Lin Shuyao wouldn't be able to complete the task as promised. This kind of workload was 100% excessive. You don't have to worry about me. Since I agreed to increase the number of orders, I'm fully confident. Lin Shuyao put down her pen and smiled confidently. Have you heard of the flow of two pens? Loopy Toad was blank. Of course it knew about the flow of two pens. This was the move that Dopey Gua used to copy homework in number 60 high school. Moreover, Dopey Gua had upgraded this move and introduced the flow of 5 pens to copy homework to increase the speed of copying. To tell you the truth, I'm the leader of the flow of two pens sect. Lin Shuyao crossed her fingers and began to formally introduce herself to Little Silver and Loopy Toad. After joining our sect, learning the flow of two pens is the foundation. As long as I mobilize all the disciples of our sect to use the flow of two pens to ghostwrite, the workload will double. Lin Shuyao said, of course as the leader of our sect, my highest strength isn't just the flow of two pens. After saying that, Lin Shuyao took out all the pens in her pencil case. She held one pen between her fingers, and with her two hands, she held 8 pens in total. F***K. Flow of 8 pens. Loopy Toad now completely believed in Lin Shuyao's identity as the founder of the Flow of Two Pens sect. It could only be said that as the founder of the Flow of Two Pens sect, Lin Shuyao indeed had the qualifications to take on this great responsibility. Writing homework with 8 pens. That speed was simply unimaginable. In Lin Shuyao's eyes, these high school exercises were already as easy as eating and drinking. While using the 8 pens, Lin Shuyao had already transformed into a humanoid typewriter. Like a swordsman, she put all the pens in her hands into the pencil case. Her movements were so smooth it was like an exquisite dance performance. Chapter 1035. Actually, meeting Wang Ling wasn't as complicated as one might imagine. Those who were familiar with him knew that as long as you prepared crispy noodle snacks beforehand, you could even video chat with the beloved Ling Zhenren. Of course, Ling Zhenren wouldn't say a word during the video chat. He would just stare at you with those adorable round dead fish eyes of his, and thus firmly lock onto your heart. A lot of the time, if you wanted to see into a person's heart, you just needed to look into their eyes. The eyes were the windows to the soul, and Wang Ling was no exception. The truth was that his eyes were a little special because of the king's eye, and his pupils were red. But in the cultivation world, there were plenty of cases of eye colors changing because of different foundation establishment martial arts, so there wasn't anything wrong with having the wrong eye color. Of course, there were some people who deliberately wore cosmetic contact lenses in pursuit of color, which wasn't allowed at school. There was a big difference between natural eye color and cosmetic contact lenses, and the teacher in charge of the school inspection at the entrance could tell at a glance with his many years of experience. Taking a deep breath imperceptibly, Little Silver sorted out his thoughts and planned to continue discussing the next step of their collaboration with Miss Lin. He felt that Miss Lin's proposal was reasonable, but to avoid upsetting Little Master Ling, he made an additional request. He hoped that Lin Shiyao would only observe from a distance and not get too close. Lin Shiyao had no interest in this. Her original intention had just been to see what on earth the owner of this beautiful handwriting looked like to satisfy her curiosity. As for whether she could talk to him, Lin Shiyao didn't have any particular expectations to begin with. Lin Shiyao had been in love once, but after breaking up with her ex, she had completely given up on relationships, and felt that she would never fall in love with anyone again. In Lin Shiyao's view, being in love was simply torture. Lin Shiyao could list out more than 100 benefits of being single. She was unfettered and unfettered. She didn't have to go through the routine of hypocritical warmth every day. She lived more authentically than anyone else. How great was that? Just like that, the deal was officially finalized. Then it's a deal. Lin Shiyao started to take deep breaths to hide the joy and anticipation in her heart. She had the assistants behind her start to increase the number of online orders. Little Silver and Loopy Toad heard the people behind them start to get very busy, and the ding-dong sound of Taobao notifications on their cell phones didn't stop ringing. Where there was demand, there would be a market. The profession of ghostwriter was just a job born out of the development of the times. Trash sorting, for example, had recently become popular. Loopy Toad believed that it wouldn't be long before a company would launch a professional garbage sorter who would not only help sort and empty the trash, but would also be on call like a delivery boy. Loopy Toad hadn't expected Lin Shiyao's business to actually be so good. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as noisy gongs and drums, crackling firecrackers, fluttering red flags and a sea of people. At this rate, he would definitely be able to collect all the fragments of the Jade Scroll of school history before the semester started. But at this moment, a loud boom suddenly came from outside the cafeteria, followed by many students running into the cafeteria in panic, some even screaming. What's the situation? Lin Shiyao stood up and grabbed a flustered boy to ask. Big Sister Lin, I think there's an explosion in the auditorium. Explosion? What happened? I don't know either. The boy was also dumbfounded. I just went out to receive a package, and then I heard a loud noise coming from the auditorium. Did anyone get hurt? I don't know, but I remember that there seems to be a teacher giving a public lecture in the auditorium at this time. There are about 50 alumni in the auditorium right now. You guys stay here, I'll go take a look, Lin Shiyao instructed the people behind her, and then she set off for the auditorium. Lin Shiyao was also the president of Magic Treasure Development University's Student Union. She couldn't just sit back and watch something like this happen. At the very least, she had to know the cause of the explosion in the auditorium. This incident also attracted Little Silver and Loopy Toad's attention. After some discussion, one silver and one dog rushed out with Lin Shiyao. Magic Treasure Development University hadn't been very peaceful recently, and it was all because of the serial killer who had yet to be brought to justice. Then, could this explosion have something to do with the killer? When they got close to the auditorium, a group of university teachers had already rushed over when they heard the news. There were also some students nearby who weren't afraid of death who wanted to join in on the fun. Armed with all kinds of magic treasures, the teachers stopped the students from moving forward and dispersed the crowd, while a few teachers were already ready to step forward and rescue people. Little Silver observed the auditorium's location. It was built in a corner of the campus, and was flanked by high walls on both sides by a high-pressure barrier, so outsiders couldn't climb over the walls. There were two entrances to the auditorium, but both had already collapsed after the explosion, and bricks, tiles, and rubble had rolled down to completely cover the entrances. Seeing this, Little Silver already realized that something wasn't right. This was clearly a premeditated explosion. If it had been an accident, it was impossible for the two entrances to be blown up so coincidentally. Just then, a very unfamiliar voice came from inside the auditorium. "Teachers, please calm down. Please put away your magic treasures and step back. Otherwise I can't guarantee the safety of the 50 students and one teacher in the auditorium." An icy voice without the slightest emotion floated in the air. This was the warning that came from the auditorium's built-in broadcasting room.
"Who are you?" asked one of the teachers.
"It seems you've been looking for me for a long time, and used all kinds of methods to prevent me from harming the next student. But the truth is that I'm running out of patience. I feel that the students who died too easily, and should have been tortured to death. The reason why I'm holding this place hostage today is in fact the result of your Magic Treasure Development University's inaction." When the man said this, all the teachers and students broke out in a cold sweat. This was the latest serial killer. "You can ask for anything. Please don't hurt the children inside." At that moment, a middle-aged man with slicked back hair and a somewhat out of shape stepped forward. This was Zhou Dongye, the headmaster of Magic Treasure Development University. Little Silver had seen some of the police investigation data on Magic Treasure Development University from Gao Tian previously, so he recognized this man at a glance. "This voice, it's Headmaster Zhou Dongye's, right?" The man inside sneered. "I didn't want to do this, but the truth is that if I didn't make a big deal out of it, you wouldn't have taken it seriously at all. Do you remember this child, Zhang Jingxian?" When the man said this, the faces of Headmaster Zhou Dongye and all the teachers present darkened. When Little Silver turned his head, he saw that Lin Shiyao had already clenched her little fists and was trembling slightly.
Chapter 1036.
After receiving the news from the school, Gao Tian immediately rushed in the direction of the school. In order not to agitate people, he changed into plain clothes and borrowed the chief's private car to hurry to the school. There weren't many people with him, just 3 police officers. As for the Immortal Arts Mobile Squad, they were already deployed in the vicinity. They were hiding nearby and wouldn't show themselves for the time being. As soon as Gao Tian gave the order, they would rush in to save the students. But such a forceful attack was ultimately just a last resort, because this was a serial killer who had already killed several people. He absolutely wouldn't mind killing a few more. "How's the situation?" Gao Tian asked his assistant on the way. "The school's teachers are maintaining order at the scene. By the way, Captain Gao, the suspect mentioned a person named Zhang Jingxian. Our colleagues from the intelligence department went to look into him. Take a look." The assistant handed his phone to Gao Tian. It was a detailed file on Zhang Jingxian. 3 years ago, he was a student at Magic Treasure Development University, a fresh graduate from the class of 4,393. His grades were excellent, and he had even represented the school in a Magic Treasure design competition. Gao Tian read the relevant information that the intelligence department had gathered from the internet. Because he was suspected of plagiarizing someone else's work in an international competition, Zhang Jingxian was permanently disqualified from the competition. As a result, his alma mater, Magic Treasure Development University, was tarnished. After discussion with the higher-ups of Magic Treasure Development University, they ordered Zhang Jingxian to publicly apologize to the entire school and the Magic Treasure design industry, or he would be expelled and punished. Zhang Jingxian refused to apologize, and after several fruitless attempts at communication, the school issued a disciplinary notice. When the courier delivered the notice to Zhang Jingxuan's rental apartment, he discovered that he had already committed suicide by detonating his golden core. Reading up to this point, Gao Tian rubbed his chin. So that's what happened. In fact, this incident had caused quite a ruckus back then. Gao Tian vaguely remembered that the news that year had been overwhelmingly denouncing Zhang Jingxian. The only thing missing was someone pressing his head down and forcing him to apologize. After Zhang Jingxuan's death, the incident didn't stop there. Online media outlets wrote articles about how Zhang Jingxian was so ashamed that he couldn't bear the pressure and had committed suicide to escape punishment. Then the netizens' comments on Zhang Jingxian began to change. Those who had been clamoring to bring him to justice and wanted nothing more than to hang his corpse on the pillar of shame in history began to sympathize with him, wondering if there was some inside story. But then, in less than a week's time, the voices on the internet had disappeared without a trace. No matter how popular it was, it couldn't last more than 7 days. This was Gao Tian's understanding of the modern internet. I remember this case, but I only learned about it 3 years ago. I don't have the right to intervene in this matter. The final police investigation showed that Zhang Jingxian had indeed committed suicide, and a suicide note was found in his home. After identification, it was indeed Zhang Jingshuan's notes. Gao Tian sighed. He didn't expect that after so many years, he would personally come across this case. Perhaps there really was some inside story in the incident back then? Gao Tian guessed. But this was just a guess. He didn't have any proof, and he needed to find more evidence to corroborate the facts back then and restore the truth of the incident. But even if he wanted to investigate, it wouldn't be easy for Gao Tian. It had already been 3 years since the incident, and a lot of the chain of evidence from back then had been broken. Even the rental house where Zhang Jingxian had chosen to commit suicide had been turned into a chess room because no one was living in it. After Gao Tian finished reading the information, he handed the phone back to the assistant on the side, who said, "All in all, this is a student who has tarnished Magic Treasure Development University's reputation. Thus, we've initially pinpointed that the murderer in this murder and hostage case may have been Zhang Jingshuan's parents who started this case out of revenge." After a preliminary investigation, Zhang Jingshuan's parents divorced before his death because they couldn't stand the online abuse. We've already contacted his mother, who is building a relationship with a new boyfriend out of town. We've already asked a colleague out of town to verify the situation, and it should be close to the truth. As for Zhang Jingshuan's father, we're still investigating and can't completely eliminate him from the list of suspects.
We have to find his father.
Gao Tian nodded. Judging from this incident, Zhang Jingshuan's parents were the most likely suspects. Of course, Gao Tian couldn't completely agree with what his assistant had said. Although Zhang Jingxian was undoubtedly a pillar of shame in the magic treasure design industry, who knew what the truth was like back then? When we arrive at the scene later, don't insult classmate Zhang in such a way as to provoke the criminal, got it? Gao Tian instructed. Yes, Captain Gao. The accompanying police officers all nodded. What are the criminal's current demands? A little lower. He wants a ransom of 3 million. He's only asking for 3 million for so many hostages. Gao Tian felt that there was something wrong with this suspect's head. But he suddenly remembered something. The prize for first place in the magic treasure design competition that classmate Zhang Jingxian had participated in back then seemed to have been 3 million. Was this a hint from the criminal to them? Gao Tian felt that things were vaguely becoming interesting. This criminal really was here because of the competition back then, and perhaps he was relying on justice to expose some inside story. But as far as Gao Tian was concerned, this was very stupid. Whether or not there was a secret behind the competition back then, even if there really was an insider behind the scenes, that wasn't a reason for this criminal to kill so many people in a row. The cultivation world was now on the path of the rule of law, and since it was a country governed by the law, it naturally had to follow the heavenly Tao. The weapon used to expose inside stories was the law, not private punishment. Gao Tian would go all out to investigate what happened back then, but he would also arrest this heinous criminal who had killed so many people in a row and hand him over to the law for punishment. Second, he wants Principal Zhou Dongye of Magic Treasure Development University to release the live video of the Magic Treasure Design competition that year. But because it's been a long time, Principal Zhou says that this request can't be fulfilled for the time being. He still needs to communicate with the organizing committee and get permission before he can bring the video to the scene. But the criminal doesn't accept Principal Zhou's opinion. He wants Principal Zhou to release the video within half an hour, or else he'll have to kill a hostage every half an hour. And Gao Tian's expression turned cold. The third and final condition is that the criminal wants all cultivators above the Golden Core stage to withdraw from within a 10-kilometer radius, except for relevant school personnel. If they can't do it within half an hour, he'll blow up the auditorium. But you're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.